Dr. Ratliff to lead us the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.04 is approval of the meeting agenda. Dr. Ratliff, additions to the agenda.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your patience here. Yes, you do have some agenda items that we had not discussed at the last meeting added to open session, and several of them were moved from open session regarding the policies that had been removed. And then a couple items for closed session. It's that time of year we're doing staffing, and we've had to add a couple of items there, but that's it for tonight.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Have a motion by Mr. Henderson and a second by Ms. Hamilton to approve the meeting agenda as amended. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Item 2 tonight is special recognition, and we're certainly very pleased to have students here tonight to recognize. It seems like it's been a long time and few and far between. We've been able in the last year and a half to recognize our students, and that's really what it's all about. I mean, that's why we're all here, why we all should be here, for our students and to recognize their achievements. So we're glad to have you here tonight, glad to have a good crowd here tonight. And at this time, I'll ask Dr. Ratliff to, with great joy to do this. I mean, you know how proud of and happy for I am of our students, all of us are. As you just mentioned, tonight we have 2 real special recognitions, and Lauren and the rest of the ladies track team from Patrick Henry High School. You can see all the people that showed up to support you tonight. So I hope that is indicative of the support that we have for something really, really positive going on in our school community. And I do believe that Lauren is here. Lauren, are you back there still? You haven't run from us, have you? You'll come on up. Coach Barker, if you and Mr. Lasley would be so kind to come up, and anyone else from Abingdon High School, but primarily Coach Barker, you know how this goes. She gets all the credit. You just, I coached high school tennis. So
she did all the work.
That's right. I coached high school tennis. We didn't get this. I didn't have a state champion, nor would I ever take responsibility for anybody's success on the court. And I know you feel the same way, and I know you've done a wonderful job with all of our players. Tonight, we're going to highlight a state champion, and all of anybody around the table or in the room that's been involved in high school athletics, particularly if you've been at the coaching level and or at the participation level, you know how unbelievably hard that is to accomplish. And to be able to be the singles champion, the ladies singles champion for the entire state of Virginia is an unbelievable, wonderful accomplishment, Lauren. And I know that lots of people have good things to say to you here momentarily, but I just wanted to make it clear that, just as you just said, we haven't had the opportunity to really enjoy the success, or at least to honor in public view the success of our students. And Lauren, I know you have a lot on your plate, and I think Mr. Lasley and others have to twist the arm and get you here. So with your schedule and all that you have going on, but thank you so much for who you are as a person, first of all. Your character is just, it speaks for itself. Everyone that talks about you, so I don't want to embarrass you, I've already done it, so I might as well keep on doing it. Your character and who you are as a student athlete, and who you are in our school community and the example that you are. I know you're no more perfect than the rest of us, but you are just an unbelievable role model for other people. And I want to say that to you as your superintendent first and foremost, and also the athletic prowess that you have and the ability to stay in there, because I know what that's like. I mean, you can get down in a heartbeat, and to be able to come back or to sustain your level of play the way you did at the competition level that you had in front of you is just incredible.
So tonight, I wanted to give you, first and foremost, present you to the public, but also to tell you myself how very, very proud I am of you and how happy I am for you and for Abingdon High School. I know Mr. Lasley has a different gait now. He has a little different strut when we talk about when you're able to be a state champion. And I know Coach Barker has meant a lot to you. Coach Barker, is there some things that you and or Mr. Lasley you'd like to share about Lauren? And certainly we'd love to hear from Lauren as well. But Coach Barker, is there anything in particular you would like to say about
it
her?
was a very interesting season for Lauren. We started off with no expectations like everyone else in athletics because we had no season. And Lauren, being a freshman last year, had no season, and she came in as a sophomore this year. So our goal was just to try to improve and gain experience with each match. And so doing that, Lauren just kept winning, kept winning, and kept winning. So she won all of her district matches without losing a set. And then she went into regional play, won all of her matches there, and then went into singles regional championship, won all of her matches there. Didn't lose a set, kept her composure. And then when we got to state, she finally ran into some really tough competition. And I think that's where we saw how Lauren handles the pressure under these kind of situations. Up to this point, she really hadn't been tested. She won all of her matches without losing a set. She had a pretty tough match in the state semifinals. But when she got to the finals, she lost her very first match, or very first set of the entire year. So then you're wondering, okay, so this is our first test here. We'll see how it goes. And then, to her credit, she just buckled down and fought and played really smart and used her head, played brilliant tennis, and was able to win the next set 6-3, and then the final set 6-3, and she became the champion. She's our champion.
She is our champion, sir. Thank you. Mr. Lasley.
Yeah, she's a fantastic young lady, as you already talked about, and both athletically, physically, but more than anything, and I think that's, Coach Barker, you could really see it, just mentally, how tough she is. She did a fantastic job, and not only a great representation for us on the tennis court, but what she does every day from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock in that school building, and the leader she's developing into, it's an honor. She's well deserving of that and many other recognitions and every great thing that's been said about her tonight.
Lauren, you're welcome to say, and I'll get out of the board chair's way, but I wanted to give you the opportunity, since we've all bragged on you, if there's anything that you'd like to say.
I'm just very thankful for everyone that got me to this position, for Coach Barker and Mr. Lasley and parents and just everyone that helped me do this.
No,
Do we have parents here tonight?
Camera's
Would
running
you-
back there.
Yeah. Thank you for being here tonight, your support. I know that goes a long way. Or there are individual board members who would like to make a comment.
Just say congratulations to you. We're so proud you represent Abingdon well, and you represent our whole community. Thank you.
Not only Abingdon, but Washington County. I coached for 19, 20 years ago to coaching clinics, and the only thing for a while we were famous for down here was playing that old 3 yards in a cloud of dust football. But Abingdon High School has made me proud to go to clinics and things in Northern Virginia, because I can say we got a state tennis champion, we got a state golf team down here. So congratulations, and keep up the hard work. And I like what Mr. Lasley, your coach, said about Mr. Lasley, your coach said about your mental toughness. That means a lot when you're out there playing. So congratulations.
Now, Lauren, I want to congratulate you too. And I've been around a long time and seen a lot in the schools and seen a lot of changes. And I know, and you know too, I've been doing it. To be a state champion, so you reach back and get a little bit more and put more into it and work harder and have a good goal and go after it. And thank you so much for doing that and getting your state championship that you did. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and put the pressure on. We look forward to seeing you again next year. Pay attention and understand that you're underclassmen, so we look forward to seeing you again.
Okay.
We'll have a doubles partner with her next year. So we'll have 3 of us.
There you go.
Yeah, we look forward to that.
It's really wonderful to have you here with us tonight. And let us be a part of celebrating your accomplishments. And we are so proud of your accomplishments and your representation of, as Mr. Henderson said, of Abingdon High School, but also Washington County.
In the audience, that is a tradition that we've established here, and one that's well deserved, and we'll continue to do that every time we can at least get on our feet to do that. These are our young people, these are our leaders, our people. Proceed with the. Yeah, I'm just forward to this. We also have another champion, Mr. Chair and members of the board. We have the Class 1 girls track and field state champions in our midst, in our county, from Lady Rebels from Patrick Henry High School. And so anyone, I know there was some struggle with some people being here tonight, but those of you that are here tonight, I know McKenna Clay, Zoe Davenport, Katie Dick, Avery Maiden, Ella Maiden. They don't, their names never come up. Madison Osborne, McKinley Auditor from Patrick Henry High School. If you're here, will you please come forward? We're all here. Yeah, Coach Love. Again, I will say this, and Coach, I'll turn you loose because I know you are so very proud and so eager to share about these ladies, what true champions they are. And I know some of them here better than others, but I do know this, that I can have it is repeat and repeat with what I just said to Lauren, and how you all have just conducted yourselves as citizens in our community, and the leadership, and what you've been through this entire pandemic, and it's circling back on us, and how you all hold your head up and you keep positive. You have been a role model for us. And I want to thank you for that, ladies, and Coach, you get that too. Ladies, you have been just an incredible role model for the entire school community. I know Patrick Henry feels that way about you. Your superintendent and all the administrative staff and the school board leaders, I think I can safely speak for them and what we know about you and how you behave in the classroom, how you conduct yourself in the community, how you hold your head up, how resilient you are, and how you look at other people to try to be an example for them. We do 2 things here that we really work hard at. We want to build you as student learners, and then we also want to do everything we can to prop you up as student leaders and real positive leaders, people that look for ways to make a contribution as opposed to just making a mess. And we just thank you so much for how you are developing that. And we have said this time and time again, we just spoke to the new teachers coming in, how important it is that we ask you to continue to teach us. And more importantly, that we look in the mirror and expect from ourselves to learn from you. So we really appreciate that. And that's not even talking about your athleticism. I mean, what you've done incredible has been just incredible as well. And I made jokes about the Maiden girls, names never coming up, because every time I turned around, I was hearing about all of you. But people kept saying, "Where'd you get the Maiden girls? Where'd you get the Maiden girls?" And I said, "It's not like I went out and got them. You know, we're just blessed. We are just so blessed in our school community to have all of you here and all that you've done. So congratulations and thank you even more than congratulations. Thank you for who you are, not just what you did." Coach Love.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Matliff and the entire school board for allowing us to come here tonight so you can honor these girls for their state championship. Before I talk about the season, I'd like to introduce you to the girls. First, our lone seniors, Ella Maiden, Avery Maiden, Madison Osborne, McKinley Ottinger,
Wave your hand at us a little bit.
there your hands up. Zoe Davenport, McKenna Clay, Katie Dick, and Nevaeh Harless. A couple of years ago, the girls had won the state championship in 2019, and we had high hopes coming into 2020 because we had 95% of that team coming back, and then of course the season was shut down because of COVID. Going into the season, we only had 3 girls from the 2019 team left, and having lost so much to graduation, I don't think a lot of people expected these girls or gave these girls a chance to win another state championship, except for the girls behind me because they believed in themselves. I had Elle in class, and we started talking about, probably in January, had conversations about the upcoming season, and we both mentioned to each other that we thought we could still win it. And after the Judy Thomas this year, on May the 14th, is when we really started paying attention to Milestat, which is the runner's website, and they rank all the teams. And after the Judy Thomas, I looked on Monday, and we were ranked first. And Riverheads was ranked second. And for the rest of the season, it just kept going back and forth from Patrick Henry, Riverheads, Patrick Henry, Riverheads. And we had the Hoagie's District meet on June the 1st, and the girls won by 74 points. And then a week and a half later, we had the Region D meet over at Eastside, and the girls won again by 74 points. During the week of practice before the state meet, the coaching staff, we all sat down with them and talked about their chances at winning. And we just told them, said, if you go to JMU and you do everything that you've been doing all year long and do what you're capable of, you can bring a state title home. Once the meet started, Zoe, behind me, led us off early in the morning, about 8:30. Running the 3,200 meters, she played 6, scored 3 points, and then the girls just took off from there. All the 7 girls that competed at the state meet made all state in at least one event. The girls won by 30 points, and they had won by the 300 hurdles, so there was still 4 events to go, and we had it won. So that was very nice. Being able to sit and relax for the last 4 events, knowing these girls had done that. So, Katie Dick was 8th in the 800. McKinley Ottinger was 7th in the pole vault and 8th in the shot put. Madison Osborne was 6th in the shot put and 7th in the discus. Zoe Davenport was 6th in the 32. McKenna Clay, along with Ella Maiden, Avery Maiden, and McKinley Ottinger were 2nd in the 4x100 relay. Avery Maiden was 3rd in the 100 hurdles, long jump, and triple jump, 5th in the pole vault, and 7th in the 300 hurdles. And Ella Maiden won the state championship in 4 events. She won the state championship in the 100 and 300 hurdles, the triple jump, and the pole vault, and she broke her own state record with the vault of 10 feet. Ella led the team with 56 points, followed by Avery with 26. Before I finish, I want to thank the entire coaching staff, and we've got most of them here. There's 2 or 3 that are not here, but Coach Fred Self, who couldn't be here tonight, Coach Casey Euchre, Coach Dan Cannon. Leave your hand up.
Oh, yeah. David Cannon.
Coach Billy Maiden. Where's Billy at? Coach Tom Merle, who couldn't be here tonight, and Coach Ashland White, who couldn't be here tonight. All the accolades need to go to these girls for what they did this year, but we couldn't do it without all of these coaches giving their time to work with these girls. And I'm so appreciative of the coaching staff that I have, and I couldn't have a better coaching staff. They're fantastic. And lastly, these girls are state champions, but most importantly, they're great kids. And we just had a ball all year long. They're the kind of kids that do everything we ask them to do, and they deserve the state top because of the work that they put in. And again, we want to thank you for allowing us to come here and honor these girls for the state championship that they brought on to Patrick Henry. Thank you.
Ladies, is there anything you would like to share? Wouldn't be pick on you, since you're the outgoing one, would you like to, any of you or anyone else in the crowd like to say anything?
I would just like to say thank you for all the coaches and all the parents taking us to practice. And I know for the pole vaulters, we had to go down to Tennessee High almost every week, and that's not an easy drive and not an easy practice. So just thank you to all the coaches putting their time in.
Tell me that you did get good food on the way back.
Most of the time.
You had to back and do your homework.
I will say one thing, girls. We're going to have to get some more wall space in the gymnasium and all the state championship pictures up in there. Our track team has really got it done, but I want to congratulate each and every one of you. I ran on a Region 4 track championship team. Of course, I had Keith Arrington. I was the one who made the relay, but like Coach said, she led off the 3,200. Those 3 points were just as important as the 50-some and 30-some, and the rest of y'all scored. So it's a team effort. Everybody stuck together. And I know when it got down to where it was tough, you reached back at Coach Love and the coaching staff and taught you how to get it done. Congratulations, and my golly, we're proud of you, Patrick Henry and Washington County.
Certainly, and Dave, I know it's Dave Cannon. I heard a lot of snafu there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. I just made you feel a little better.
David Cannon.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I saw him back there. I said, I'll help Coach Love out with that. Ladies, not only do we see you in track, we see you around the school, and we see you in other athletic events as well. Your competitiveness and your heart and your desire. I mean, just to see, I wouldn't recognize you looking at you on a ball field at Thomas Walker, versus coming over here and seeing you all dressed up and presenting yourself. That just shows what quality people you are and the way you take serious about how you represent your school and how you represent your family. So it's very important that you do that each and every day, and understand that carrying forward with success and carrying forward with successes that you've had, the image that you portray is nothing but 100% satisfactory for each and every one of us who represents you and sponsor you and really take delight in watching you participate. So keep up the good work. We look to see you back again. I'll put the pressure on you all too, Coach Love. Got a lot of underclassmen here, class persons here, so we want to see you back again and see them involved in all types of activities at Patrick Henry. For those of you who are going on, we wish you nothing but the best in your future endeavors. And 3,200 meters, I'm telling you, I couldn't walk it. Right now, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I'd just like to say congratulations to all of y'all. And I had a son and a daughter involved in a lot of sports when they were in high school, track meets, cross country, and running. So I've been to a lot of them through the years, and it's really, really good to be able to sit here and see all of y'all come here and with the accomplishments that y'all have done this past year to be state and the work that you had to put out to be state champions. Just congratulations to each of you and to your families for being there to support y'all, and the coaches for supporting and having faith that y'all can do it, and y'all say, hey, we will, and you did. That's good. Thank you.
I'll just say that, we're recognizing you as a track team, but a track team is a little bit unique compared to what we think about as most teams. So, it's not like when you're out there that your teammate could pick up the pace for you. It's all dependent on you as individuals to carry your load. And it's certainly obvious that each of you have carried your load. And I'm sure that you've encouraged one another a lot. And that's what, that's what builds a team, is encouragement and picking one another up when they're down a little bit and patting them on the back and say, you'll get it next time, and all those things. So no doubt that, when you're running track and you're swimming and you're playing tennis and doing all those individual sports, you're always competing against yourself because you're trying to be better than you was the last time you were on the track or on the field. So huge accomplishment, and we're so very proud of you, and proud as again to be part of Washington County and who you are and how you represent us. And we certainly glad to be part of that. Do we have parents here that would stand and be recognized? We'd like to recognize you also. You're part of the reason. You're certainly the reason these young ladies are here tonight, and encouraged them and got them to practices and got them home from practices and track meets and made sure they had their schoolwork done and got fed and got in bed where they could get a couple hours sleep before they went back to school the next day. So thank you for what you do in supporting our students and our young people.
said, get on back and do your homework. We're not quite there. Go there and get ready to do your homework.
Thank you. Thank you also. We'll give a couple minutes here for folks to clear out, and if there's anyone in the hall that would like to come in and have a seat, you're certainly welcome to do so once they. We're down to item 3.01, which is the public comment section of the meeting, and I know we have several individuals signed in to speak tonight, and just like last meeting, I just want to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the school board that the public is invited to participate in during public comment, and just ask that everyone be respectful of others' views and just be attentive and be respectful is all I ask. We've got another individual signed in. Ms. Caudill will be our timekeeper. At the end of when you start speaking, the light will be white, correct? When you get to 2.5 minutes, she will turn it blue, and at the end of 3 minutes, it will be red, and we ask at that time that your comment cease.
She has changed locations as our clerk at the end of the table, so keep that in mind that you be looking at her when you need direction and guidance there.
And before we start tonight, I think it's appropriate that I make this statement. Back when COVID hit, it was very important that we give the public an opportunity to see what we were doing during our meetings. And we took money from COVID funds and set this room up to be able to stream our meetings. So everyone in the public would have an opportunity to see what was going on in the meeting. So, you know, when we talk about moving meetings at the spur of the moment, it's very difficult to do because we don't have another building, we don't have another room in the county set up to accommodate the streaming. So if you move, you know, and people are at home and they're anticipating that they're going to come home from work, and while they're cooking supper, they're going to flip a laptop up and watch a school board meeting. It would be a disappointment to them if we moved a meeting and they did not have the opportunity to do that. So it's I know last meeting it was a difficult situation. There wasn't enough room in here to accommodate everyone, but either accommodate one or the other, and it was very obvious there was a lot of people at home watching the video and watching the stream. So I want to make that statement tonight, and I hope everyone understands and respects that. Thank you. First individual signed in to speak is Joseph Bess.
Members of the school board, Dr. Ratliff. My name is Joseph Bess. I'm the parent of a first grader at Meadowview Elementary. And I'm here tonight to speak briefly about the proposed reopening plans for the coming year and COVID mitigation efforts. Some of the things that my wife and I hope our son develops during his education are the ability to tell fact from fiction, the ability to critically analyze and evaluate evidence and arguments, and the fact that the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know, and to be okay with that. And to take classes with some of the great science teachers that we have here in Washington County. I am not a public health expert, so I have not come to share my opinions, personal, political, or otherwise, about COVID mitigation efforts in public schools, nor any random things I read on the internet. Instead, I've come to encourage and implore all of you to follow the recommendations of the many local, state, and national public health experts and officials who are unanimously recommending mandatory universal mask wearing in K-12 settings. This is also the approach supported by many thousands of parents of school children here in Washington County. And obviously this is not a new policy, nor should it even be controversial, since this was done to great success last year. We had many students, including my son, who were able to go to school and had a great time. They didn't care whether they had a mask on or not. They were able to learn and play with their friends, and they were very happy. And this year, it is even more important with the Delta variant in our community, and since the Delta variant is estimated to be about 200% more transmissible than previous COVID strains. Along with vaccines, mask wearing in public spaces is the most effective tool we have against the spread of COVID. The scientific research on that is clear and unambiguous. Every relevant public health body, from the CDC to the American Academy of Pediatrics to the Virginia Department of Health, is strongly recommending mandatory universal mask wearing in K-12. And this is, of course, especially important in elementary schools, where there are no students who are even eligible to receive the vaccine. And they will not be eligible for at least another few more months. Even before the Delta variant emerged, COVID rose to become one of the top 10 causes for death of adolescents in the United States. Over the weekend, Alan Levine, the CEO of Ballot, wrote that due to the numbers of children in the pediatric ICU, he is asking Niswonger Children's Hospital to prepare a surge plan in case the numbers continue on their current trajectory. I sincerely hope that does not become necessary. But here today, you at least have the power to make sure that as few of those beds as possible are taken up with Washington County's children. And the simple and easy way to do that is to have them wear masks in schools. Thank you for your time and your service to the community.
Next individual is Theresa Ingle.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm here as a grandmother of a 10-year-old in elementary school in Washington County. I had a lot of things written down to say to you tonight, but I think mostly I'm just going to speak about the things that concern me and some of the comments actually that have already been made. All of these things are not unanimous. There are many, many doctors out there that don't agree. But as a parent and as a grandmother, I'm here to speak from the experience that I have had to deal with. Last year, I have a special needs grandson. And it was a very difficult situation for him. It wasn't fun. It wasn't great to go to school. He spent more time being called down for not being able to keep his mask over his nose. He got sent to the principal's office. And no child should ever be subjected to being told that if they don't wear their mask, they're going to kill their grandmother. I'm a grandmother, okay? I know that there are concerns, but the masks have been shown. They will stop some of the larger particles if you are sick. So some of the coughing or the sneezing, if you are sick, they're not going to prevent anyone from getting COVID or any other virus. That's not what they're designed to do. So if a child is sick, what should they do? The parents should keep them home. Have it addressed, but not make every single child wear a mask. I watched these beautiful young athletes come up here just a moment ago, and the story of the young woman, the young athlete from last year, who because her mother insisted that she wear a mask, collapsed and died for lack of oxygen. I don't have it referenced to show you where to find that, but I thought probably you heard it. And there was an article in the Jerusalem Post by Dr. Russell Blaylock that wrote from side effects of prolonged wearing of the face mask can vary from headaches, which my grandson came home with almost every single day last year. A headache, not from eyesight or from COVID or any other reason than that mask. It can increase airway resistance, carbon monoxide accumulation, to hypoxia, all the way to serious life-threatening complications. They don't get the breaks that they need from wearing those. And I'm here to ask you not to subject our young people that are very unlikely to have any serious side effects from it anyway. I know you're going to hear from some other people that have way more facts to present to you than me, and I'm asking you not to make this mandatory. Let it be a choice. Let it be up to the individual to, if they feel concerned about their child, let them wear the mask. Right? And that's what I'm here to ask you to consider and do. And I will pray for your decisions. One last thing. I know that you extended the date for the academy to Wednesday at 12 o'clock. But I think your decision here tonight is going to really depend on parents' decisions as to whether they will take advantage of that academy or be able to send their child on to school. Because I know that my grandson will not prosper in that situation.
Daniel Fritz.
I'm new to everything as far as school board meetings go. I've never been to one, never cared to go to one until last month's meeting. But I think now I'm going to be a permanent fixture at them because there's too much at stake for our kids. And I'm not here to throw facts at anybody, beat you with this report from this people or that people. We've got to take a stand against being mandated. I am all about personal choice. It's everybody's choice what they do. If I leave here and I go down to JJ's and drink 12 and wreck, that's my fault. They've got all these DUI laws, but it wouldn't stop me. That's my choice. That's everybody's choice. The mandates have got to stop. It's been going on for over a year. And where are we at? We got this variant. We got that variant. It's just going to be something else every time. They're just moving the carrot. We've got to get, it starts here at the local level. I think it's got to start at the local level. We've got to say, look, the people rule the people, not the elected officials. And when elections come around, we can move to change that for those people that don't agree with what we believe. But right now, it's got to start here. I'm ashamed because I know my kids play sports in this community. And I know there's a lot of people my age with kids in school. And I don't see maybe one other person my age here. And I'm going to get out and talk to people I know about that. But we've got to be here for our kids, like you said, Tom. Beginning of this meeting, we should all be here for the kids. For all kids. Same as last meeting. This is just as important in my mind as what last month's meeting was about. Different subject, but it's just as important. I mean, a lot of people are here with facts tonight, and I don't have them. Everybody's heard them. You're going to hear the same ones you've heard on the TV for the last however long it's been going on, right on and on. I ain't going to lay them out because it just gets overhearing. But I think kids have enough trouble just being at school, especially if I've got 2 young boys. They ride dirt bikes and tractors and everything you can think of, jump off a hay wagon. It's hard enough to get them to sit at a desk, much less try to keep something strapped across their whole face while they're doing it. I mean, they'd rather be at the house anyway. And then you strap something on them and you get fussed out about it right on and on all day. Like the lady before me said, you know, that's hard on them mentally. And I just don't think that it's up to anybody. I know it's y'all's decision now, but I don't think it's up to y'all. I don't think it's up to the state level. I definitely don't think it should be left up to D.C. What we do here. I think it's everyone's personal choice. And that's our constitutional right. And that's all I've got to say.
Sarah Yates.
I come here tonight to voice my support of mask use in elementary age children to prevent the spread of COVID-19. By all means, make it optional for kids in middle and high school, as they've had the option to have a vaccine. Elementary age kids haven't. I'm fully vaccinated. I still wear a mask in a crowded area to protect my kids. Masking isn't fun. It sucks. But hopefully it might offer a means to an end. See, I have 2 elementary age children, but back in 2016, my oldest started school. Over that year, we had 5 rounds of norovirus, 2 rounds of bronchitis, 1 round of pink eye, 1 round of rotavirus, and head lice. I know that parents send their kids sick to school all the time. You have to miss work. You worry about what they're missing from the classroom. Kids share, which is great in theory, most of the time. But anyone who has kids also know that kids are gross. And when I say they share it all. Just down the road at Nice Longer, 4 kids are currently in the PICU, with one of them on a vent, according to a recent press release from Ballot Health. If I had $1 for every time I heard kids don't get it as bad, kids don't get it, or kids don't spread it, I would be a rich woman. Regardless, if that was your child, if that was your grandchild laying there, you would want to do all you could to protect them. I ask you to help me protect my kids. I urge you to follow the recommendations of the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Virginia Department of Health in regards for masks for elementary children. As of today, 2,704 cases of people under the age of 19 within the Mount Rogers district have been diagnosed with COVID, with 14 of those being hospitalized. I do not want my children to come home with it. I do not want my children to end up sick. I homeschooled them last year through virtual school. I cannot do that this year. My child has ADHD and I have one starting in kindergarten. I am not a teacher. You give me an Excel spreadsheet, I'm great. But I am not a teacher. They need to be able to be in school. And I feel like with masks with the elementary age will help them be able to be in school. Thank you.
Bill Gibson.
You did that early. Thank you all for your 7-0 vote. Your last meeting rejecting the DOE's model transgender policy in Washington County schools. You state you have policy in place to handle that situation. But what are those policies? I think parents would like to be emailed that policy, all parents, on what would happen if a biological male went to a female restroom. What would happen? Just please send that out, and while you're at it, send out your policy for masking and social distancing. School starts next Monday, and nobody knows anything on what's going to happen. There needs to be better communication. Speaking of masking, follow the science, right? Everybody says that. From the start of this pandemic, children had less than 1% chance of contracting the China virus. And 99.975% of those will survive, and the vast majority of them, it's no worse than a common cold. Also, children are not now or never have been super spreaders of this virus. I checked with Mount Rogers Health District today, and thank God that not only Washington County, but the whole coverage area of Mount Rogers, there has been 0 deaths 19 and under in the whole Mount Rogers area during this whole virus. Take that into consideration too tonight. The CDC, which I now call the Center of Dazed and Confused, keeps sending out wrong, misleading, contradictory messaging. And I know it's got to be very frustrating to you all, because you're here making these decisions. So, and the mask on kids and teachers, it makes learning very difficult, which teaching is a hard enough profession as it is. So this is just another huge stumbling block. Kids can't understand teachers can't understand kids quit talking and quit asking questions, learning suffers, and it was going to suffer in this community for years to come. The kids, they like to socialize. That's the reason they like to come to school. And they can't socialize. They sit at the desk 6 feet apart, 3 feet apart, and like this all day long. Some kids wear a mask 8 to 9 hours a day. Get on buses before 7 a.m., get on the bus at 4. That's 9 hours wearing a mask. It's very unhealthy, and you all know it's not good, breathing carbon dioxide that long. And elementary kids, I would say, need to see the teacher's face masked more than anybody. Need to see the teacher's face. Learn how to pronounce words when they're trying to read. The teacher needs to see their mouths to help them pronounce words and the sounds correctly. And so, all summer, kids have been playing sports, no mask, and now they're expected to come to school and wear a mask. I'll end by saying Franklin County, Russell County, Bedford County, Campbell County, Tazewell County, Roanoke County, Botetourt County, Washington County, Tennessee, Sullivan County, Tennessee, they've all gone optional. This board does not have the power nor the moral right to determine what parental rights are. This is not your place. Parental rights do not stop at school steps. Allow parents the God-given constitutional rights to do what's right for their kids. Thank you.
Joseph Boyd.
Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. I promise this time I won't call anybody Beelzebub. Considering all the hyperbole and hypocrisy and misinformation surrounding all the COVID and the masks and stuff, and seeing how the reaction, I'm convinced there's folks with an obvious agenda, for purpose of division and discord, who never want the hysteria to end. Once again, current DC administration is sounding the alarm and creating panic. Recent CDC mandate is nothing more than fear-mongering. According to many experts in the medical field, the CDC's recent figures are not based on COVID hospitalizations or deaths alone, but cases of folks, many who have been vaccinated, who test positive yet are asymptomatic. Because of its double standards and flip-flops, the CDC has become at best an untrustworthy organization. It's one that I wouldn't recommend you base any decisions on. In my opinion, CDC now stands for create, division, and chaos. As for requiring children to wear a mask, Dr. Martin McCary, professor of surgery and chief of oncology surgery at Johns Hopkins, recently published an op-ed in which he stated that the mortality rate from SARS-CoV-2 among children without any premorbidity issues or disease is 0. Okay. That said, as for masks or no masks at the school level, that should be left up to the parents. That's a parental decision, not a school board decision. The parent can do the research and then make that decision whether they want their child or children, to wear a mask while attending school or any school function. Once again, I appreciate the opportunity and appreciate the consideration. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but I'm really not sure about the next sign.
Is it Shauna?
No.
Is that Richard?
Richard, yeah, I'm sorry.
Excuse my writing. I mean, I was just pushed through school. I didn't get much learning at all, but pretty much I can catch on pretty good on other things. And I mean, I've got a 8-year-old, and he really don't like his mask. I don't like him wearing a mask because it hurts him. I mean, it restricts you. I mean, you try to hold on that mask for 8 hours, it does. I mean, it about kills me just for an hour. And I'll be honest with you, I really think in my heart that it should be, if the parent wants to send them, let them have it. If the parent don't want to put the mask on, then leave them alone. Because that's what it should be. I mean, it should be up to the parent that does it. Not, I mean, I like every one of y'all, but I mean, it should be up to my responsibility and my wife's to tell him, yeah, you got to wear this, or no, you don't have to. Because I tell my boy now, because I mean, it really does hurt. Because I know, I've seen it, I've been there. Wearing that mask back drives you crazy. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Farmer.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
I think it's a great testament to you all and the job you've done, the fact that you've never really had large crowds show up until that last meeting. That attests to what a wonderful job you all have done, to where the public's never even felt like they needed to attend a school board meeting. So that is a feather in your all's cap for what a wonderful job you've done, and I appreciate that. I had never shown up to one until the last meeting, and I spoke. I was one of the only ones, me and Mr. Gibson, I think we're the only ones that spoke about masks at the last meeting, and that's my reason for being here again. Oxygen is the #1 nutrient for every living organism on Earth, including humans, or most importantly humans. Wearing a face mask is an unhealthy obstruction of oxygen flow that can lead to hypoxemia, low oxygen level in the blood, or hypoxia, low oxygen level in the tissues, which can cause damage to the organs if extended over a long period of time. I have a lot of references. Can I pass these to where if you want to look at these, I mean, everybody's got data. There's no reason for me to sit here and spew out information that's already been shared. And like we said, it could change tomorrow. Other counties, as was already mentioned, have gone with the parental choice. I think that would be a wonderful thing. I went to Greendale Elementary, went to Abingdon High School, and just recently in Kroger, I was walking through, and my 5th grade teacher said, "Farmer," and recognized me. And there was 2 farmers in our class, me and David Farmer, and he said, "There was 2 of you, David and Brad." And I said, "I'm Brad." And he said, "I knew you were Farmer as soon as I saw you." And he remembered me. Well, I want to go to the flip of that story. My son went to school last year, wore a mask the entire year. My wife and him were in a store and saw one of his teachers, and they didn't know who he was because they'd never seen him without a mask, because that was the only time they'd seen him was in school when he had a mask on the whole time. So we're cheating our kids out of that experience. You know, I've got a teacher that hadn't seen me in 40 years, I guess, and he recognized me. You know, out of the thousands and thousands of kids he'd had over that many years, and he recognized me. But then my son, who went to school the entire year last year while it was open, had a teacher that didn't even recognize him because she had never seen him without a mask before. And we talk about the mental issues that children struggle with. Not being able to see each other smiling the whole entire year, being deprived of other people smiling, because if you see somebody smile, it makes you smile. And I hate that we don't get that option. I mean, if you want them to wear it on the bus when they're confined and they're packed together, other counties have said, hey, we're going to make it mandatory on the buses. I think that's fine. But I think if you look out here right now, what are we, about 90%, or actually more than that, we're about 95% no masks. If you look around here, this is a school function on school property, and only one person wore a mask in, and only one person is wearing a mask. So you all are saying, none of us that feel like we need a mask. So if you come out with a rule that says, we're going to make your children wear them, I'm not going to be okay with that. I'll have to use the option of letting my kid go virtual. And I don't want to do that, because I don't want my kid to be alone. If somebody's afraid to send their kid to school, they have the option to let them do it online.
Yeah. Probably it was probably hard to read, but you could imagine when I was in the National Guard, or one of my sergeants made me write down all the serial numbers for the radios and weapons, and took about an hour after dinner to read them all to them. Tonight I just wanted to come up here, and I know that, you know, for a lot of reasons that you guys don't have prayer, and I just, you know, in public comments, I wanted to take that time and do it for you guys, so, you know, you don't have any legal pressure or anything, since it's in public comments. So, and also, you know, in the scriptures, we're encouraged to pray for our leaders, and I pray for you guys all the time, and I just want to take a minute to do that. Dear Father, we just come to you and we pray for all these leaders, that you give them wisdom and discernment as they make these decisions that impact not just only the community, but eventually the nation. And we just pray, Father, that you just guide their ways and their thoughts. Father, most importantly, in a meeting like this, we want to pray for the kids, because all these decisions impact them and can have a just profound impact. And we just pray, Father, that the kids are taken care of and these leaders make the right decision. In the name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you guys for allowing me to speak, and you'll have a great day.
Mark Mackey.
Hey, how are y'all? Thank you for your vote last week on the issue. I appreciate it. And
I got a lot of Facebook friends, I guess y'all know that, and they ask me when your meetings are. So I tell them. They ask me what's on the agenda. If I know, I tell them. And I have a lot of Facebook friends that are parents that asked me to come here tonight to speak about the mask issue. And what they said was it just should be up to each individual person. So I'm just asking you not to take that away from the parent and the child having a choice. I certainly hope you guys continue to put your meetings online because I don't know if you knew how many people watched last week, but I don't know if you had the capability of the technology, but I'm sure there was a lot of people, and they're all wanting to see your meetings and everything. And I don't know so much about, and I requested prayer for all of y'all on Facebook. I don't know so much about technology, about moving the meeting, and I understand things happen really fast and it come up on you, and so you may not have been aware of what was going on, but my church broadcasts their church service with the cell phone over the internet, so I don't know how much technology that takes, but anyway, and I heard somebody talking about the CDC right there. I mean, you all have to decide a local issue, but what I've heard out of the CDC this week is you don't need a mask. The next 12 hours, you need a mask. The next 12 hours, people that are vaccinated won't get COVID, the variant. The next 12 hours, the people that's got the vaccine can get the COVID variant. And the next 12 hours, people can get normal COVID that's been vaccinated. So, really, I don't know how you rely on the CDC right this moment. They're all over the place. So anyway, I just want to thank you, and because the parents asked me to come, I come and spoke because they want their parental rights not to wear a mask. Thank you.
Nick Nolan.
The other night I went home, or the other day I went home, I didn't recognize the bald-headed, short little man coming up here from the back, so it was me. I didn't realize this was around. But anyway, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. And I want to thank you for the other night, your patience and understanding for all the folks that came and spoke, either on either way of the issue, either side of the issue. I did stay until the last of the talk till y'all made your comments, and then I guess comments so bothered me at some point, and then I've read the comments in the news. I guess one of the concerns I have, that it's always had, is when we address the LGBTQ issue, from my point of view, that I don't agree with it, then so many times, so many people are ready to label us as haters. And that is not true. That is far from being true. We find that that's used a lot of times to call me a bigot or a hater or something to quieten me down or to quieten other folks down. That is not true. I mingled with many of the folks out there last night, many of the hundreds of folks out there, and they're fine people. They're fine people. They're fine church people, many of them. They're just fine individuals. And they're your constituents. And I spoke with many of them. And I didn't hear any of them speak with hate of anyone. And when we get these comments that seem to, that our community is full of hate, I just can't, it doesn't make sense to me. I walked around, I didn't see any demonstrations of hate, didn't hear any demonstrations of hate. So I just wanted to make sure that you understand when somebody opposes an issue, they don't hate the other opposition, it's just they don't agree with them. And we should be able to disagree with one another and still not be labeled one way or the other. There was some concerns, though, some of the people I spoke with out there, that some of our young people are getting misguided and incorrect information and have been fed a lot of the things by the media, by peers, by older adults, and have caused them to I guess, look at things different than I do. Not that everyone has to look at what I do. My wife doesn't even do that. But anyway, I would ask you to, instead of feeding yourself with information from the national and national organization, that you look at some other avenues of information about this issue. And but I do want to thank you so much for listening to everybody the other night. And I didn't hear what everyone was saying. I couldn't hear. It's outside, and of course, I understand. Thank you for your comment at the beginning. Kind of explained things. I kind of figured that out after a while. There's some music the other day. But thank you for your comment. I think that was needed. But thank you very much. But I hope you'll remember that just because somebody opposes this, it's not, well, hey, please not. Paul, in Corinthians chapter 6, down there, talks about, such were some of you. It's it, that you were washed and you were brought into the family of God, or brought into the church. And he had a whole list of them. Okay. Thank you.
Amanda Williams.
Hello. Hi, my name's Amanda Williams, and I wanted to thank all y'all for your hard work and all the choices you have to make for all the children. Now we've got a lot more information on masks with all the recent studies that I've been reading, and I just think that we need to update the procedure from last year, and that it should be the parents' choice whether or not our kids wear masks. So some of the recent findings were kind of scary to me. They said that both the textile and woven masks have very high levels of allergens, carcinogens, synthetic microfibers, and they're breathed through the masks all day long. Kids breathing in chemicals. The findings are backed by chemists and also professors. When they ran the tests on the different kinds of masks, they found elevated concentrations of hazardous fluorocarbons, formaldehyde, and potentially more other dangerous chemicals and microplastics. I think that a lot of people have already said a lot of the things that I had written down, but I just think that it's probably best that the parents make the decisions on whether or not to mask our kids, because you can always make the decision to mask yours. So I just want to thank everybody for letting us speak, and I agree with most of the people here that it should be the parents' choice. And thank you so much.
Sean Hollingworth. I'm sorry I missed it.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, it wasn't intentional.
That's all right. No offense, Ethan. Thanks for having me, and just thanks everyone for such a really civil discourse today. I really appreciate that. I know that the past 18 months have been undeniably difficult for everyone, and I appreciate that you all have led with such grace and patience. I also appreciate that you have remained firm in your decisions to follow the most current science when you're determining how we can best proceed with in-person learning. I agree that as a parent, precautions can be really frustrating to follow. I don't love filling out a symptom checker. I'm pretty tired of sewing and washing masks. I do recognize, however, that these are very minor inconveniences, and they are minor. They are the steps that we can take that allow our children to remain safely in school so that I can work, which is very important to my family, and so that my children can flourish and have an education with their teachers and not in my office while I'm trying to also work. So I understand that these minor inconveniences are what give my children access to their curriculum. And as such, I am very much in support of them. So let's talk about our children for a minute. I don't see any children here complaining about wearing a mask. If you've had the opportunity to observe in class, you will see that the majority of children are able to tolerate masks and don't complain about them. I know there are extenuating circumstances. I do believe that accommodations should be made for children who, for whatever reason, cannot tolerate mask wearing. And I can appreciate that that exists for some students. But for the majority, that is not the case. My 7-year-old asked if she could come with me today to tell you that she doesn't mind wearing a mask, but I paid for gymnastics and she's going. And my 9-year-old just wanted to skip gymnastics, and I told him no. I would much rather my children not be recognized by a teacher in a grocery store than have them not have access to their curriculum. And so, again, I fully support mask wearing. It is frustrating but not really surprising that our children are the ones having to set the example for the grown-ups in this case. I'm so proud of our students for carrying this mantle, for tolerating this. I understand, again, that there are students for whom exceptions must be made. So I just want to keep that out there. I'm so proud of our school employees. I am proud of our school board. Thank you for following evidence, ever evolving as it may be, to implement best practices for our students and staff. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your diligence. And thank you for your dedication to the health of our student body and our community. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment session on item 3.01, and at this time we'll move to item 4.01, which is public comment on ESSER 3 funds. Dr. Noe, has anyone signed in to speak on the ESSER? Is there anyone who would like to speak on the ESSER funds, ESSER 3 funds? We'll let public comment, and we'll move on to consent agenda. There are 12 items on the consent agenda. Are there any of the 12 items that any board member wishes to remove and talk about specifically?
I have one comment before we do that. I don't want to pull any of them. I will note that on the minutes under the consent agenda, I think there were a couple of names that were duplicated in the speakers. I know there was a long list of them, and I have notes on those, and I think a couple other people, and we could get with Ms. Kaiser and be sure we get them right in the minutes, if that's okay with the rest of the board. And on policy 5.05, there were one or two verb tense kind of words that were changed between the first reading and the second reading, and everybody saw that on second reading. I just wanted you to be aware of that before we vote. That said, Mr. Chair, I move we approve the items 5.01 through 5.12 on the consent agenda.
With the suggestion amendment.
Yes.
Second. I have a motion by Ms. Lowe and a second by Mr. Henderson that we approve the consent agenda, including items 5.01 through 5.12 with the exception of minutes being approved. Excuse me.
Correct.
Being modified is correct, yes. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Item 6 is first reading policies. There are nine policies for first reading. Are there any of those policies that you'd like to talk about specifically? Any concerns or questions on any of those 9 policies?
I have a question.
Yes.
It's the KNAJ, law enforcement employees. The one where it talks about the memorandum of understanding between.
What number is that?
04.
6.04.
Yeah. I'm just curious, when's the last time we've updated the memorandum of understanding? Can't get it out of my mouth. And if we can see an updated version of that for the
2
most
years ago?
recent.
I think it's when we did it, or before. I think it's been 2 years ago. I can certainly get you a copy. That'd be more than glad to email that to you.
We can get that to everybody.
Absolutely. Just send that out the
Absolutely.
It says it will be readily available on the website.
Correct. That's in addition to this policy.
In the new policy.
I have highlighted C Superintendent on
I got you.
once approved. So.
Chair, I move we approve the first reading policies for under consideration from 601 through 609.
Second. I have a motion by Ms. Lowe and a second by Mr. Henderson that we approve the policies recommended on first reading for approval, items 6.01 through 6.09. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Item 7.01 Washington County Nutrition Department bid notification.
Dr. Wall. The memo that you have in front of you, I talked to Ms. Cup a little bit today. The first 5 on there are through the co-op. Co-op comes together, and the last 3 are really just renewals. We went out for RFP on those last year, so this is we can extend those up to 4 years. This is just the second year of the RFP. It was a place of good service out of the companies that we were working with, and we want to continue to do business with.
We need to approve these.
Move we approve.
Question. Sure. Milk, who we get our milk from? Is it on there?
It's not on here, and I'm drawing a blank of who that is. It's
Mayfield?
It's Borden, I think. Borden, thank you.
Okay.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lovell, second by Mr. Henderson, that we approve the Washington County Child Nutrition Department bid for 2021. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Item 8.01, discussion of options related to school member resignation and vacancy. I know there's been some discussion, and as everyone is aware, that Mr. Fleener, by his own personal choice, has decided to resign. That resignation was effective July 31st, which was the day before yesterday. I guess the discussion is to whether we decide to fill that vacancy at this time. The Code of Virginia says that the board may. It does not say you shall. It does not say you will. It says you may, within 45 days, appoint a registered voter from that district to fill that vacancy until, and of course, we all know that that term expires December 31st, 2021. We also know that Mr. Fleener was not a candidate for re-election, and that there are 2 individuals in that community that are on the ballot for that election in November. So, Dr. Ratliff and I have both talked to 2 different legal counsels. Of course, it's certainly the decision of the board. I think from the discussion he and I have had and the discussion we have both had with the legal counsel is, with the timeline being what it is, by the time you went through an advertisement process, by the time you went through an application process, by the time you went through the interview process, and then getting someone in the oath of office and getting them on the board and getting them up to speed on where we were at, we would probably at that point be very near that election. Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, are you through? I was waiting for you.
No, I'm not.
Go ahead and finish up what you have.
I think the recommendation, and correct me, Dr. Ratliff, if I'm wrong, but for our conversation by both legal counsel, and that was our school board attorney, Mr. Young, and I had a conversation with Elizabeth Ewing today with VSBA, and both of them has said that if we were going to do anything, that probably the best recommendation would just be to wait until the election and the candidate that won was selected by the voters of that district. If they were willing, once the election was over, the successful candidate from that election, if they chose to do so, of course at that time we would have to petition the court. It wouldn't be within our authority. We would have to petition the court to go ahead and appoint that individual for the completion of the term, which would at that point be less than 2 months. But they both felt that that was probably the cleanest thing at this point that we could do, given the timeline that we're dealing with. So it's, it's certainly the pleasure of the board. It's not my decision. It's not Dr. Ratliff's decision. It's the board's decision.
Now, I just wanted to make a comment too that even though it sometimes, not very often, but occasionally we'll have to vote for 3-3 if we have 6 members. But I think for all of us are here, we're all adults and we're all here to serve the communities, and I think that we could very well function with just a 6 until we do have the election.
Mr. Chairman, the reason I agree with our legal counsel is because I don't want our constituents or the county folk to get the perception that we're trying to set the board for ourselves. That's totally, we don't want to do that. So if we wait until after the election, and whoever wins the election, if they want to do that, the circuit court will want him, what you like to say, Mr. Chair, is out of our hands. I would feel more comfortable with that. So that's my 2 cents.
I had you covered all the facts. You just nailed every fact. There's just one bit of backdrop that I just want to remind those certainly those who had been on the board before, during my time as superintendent here, going now into the 9th year. We had one other situation. I just want to make it clear to the board and for public earshot is that there is the option of petitioning for what's called a writ of special election, but this matter would not be considered and it doesn't apply. So I wanted to make sure that was clear, and I know that can go without saying, but I wanted to make sure for anyone who may be revisiting in the past when this occurred, it was during a time where there wasn't, like you had indicated, an upcoming election in November where someone was going to be coming off the board anyway and not running and choosing not to run for election. So any consideration for that is not applicable to us. So then it leaves us with what Mr. Music has already indicated, that the 4-year term for an individual who would, Mr. Henderson just mentioned, who would win the election, and the people in the community, and particularly in that district, would be the ones who are elected that individual, that their 4-year term will commence on January 1, 2022. So I just want to make sure that all that's clear.
We've had some discussion about this, and I agree with our not selecting someone, but I think it then makes it incumbent on all of us sitting here to be sure that the people of that district know that we represent them also. And I will say that, I was pleased. You all might have gotten a little email in the last couple of days from people or heard from people on various issues. And every time I heard from a High Point parent, I thought, good, they feel comfortable contacting me or the rest of the board members. And I wanted to be sure that, that district knows that we're here. That
and that's really
we're not going to leave them without representation.
It is certainly not the desire of this board to leave a district without representation. I can promise you that that's not the desire. And if you have, any of us are willing, we are elected by district and we represent that district, but we serve Washington County. We don't serve a district. We represent a district, and we are elected to serve Washington County. And we all realize that. So we're here for you. All 6 of us are here for you. If you live in that district and you have a concern, pick up the phone and call one of us, email us, and we'll try to get you a response. We don't want you to feel like you're without representation. So is everyone in agreement with that would be the...
Do we need to take any action, or is it just if we don't take action on the word may?
There'll be 6 of us here.
And now, it is after our 45 days expired. The court could at that point decide to appoint someone. It's not. I will say it's not very likely that happens, especially in this situation with the timeline. If this were 8 months or a year or something like that, we would certainly be looking at other options. But given the timeline, that seems to be the most feasible option at this time. Everyone okay with that? Thank you. Item 9.01, fund summary. Ms. Caldwell, That's posted on board docs for your review. Are there any questions or concerns about the fund summary? Do I have a motion to approve the fund
So
summary?
moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Henderson and a second by Ms. Hamilton that we approve the fund summary. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Item 10, the superintendent's report. Dr. Ratliff, you have 3 items, and I'll just let you work your way through those.
Thank you, sir. We do have just a quick update. I'm going to defer to Dr. Noe. Again, thank you, Dr. Noe, for summer programs or any other programs that have occurred that you might be able to give us an update on.
We're going to give a total of the student enrollment in summer school. Over 800 students participated in elementary, middle, and secondary high school summer school predominant. So was at the elementary level. Pretty evenly distributed between the kindergarten through 5th grade, but a little bit more number-wise at the early grades, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade. And then between the middle and the high school is about 230, 240 students who participated, and we had a great deal of success at all levels, focused, as you know, on some academics, but a whole lot of social emotional aspects as well as school life. We don't have complete numbers from the session that just finished, the Jump Start session. I don't have that information yet. We did have camp last week. I didn't get the chance to go. I was going to try on Thursday, but got caught up in a few things and did not. Have spoken with some of the counselors a couple of times from that week, and they say it was amazing. We'll try to get more information on that later. SOL testing, while not a focus of summer school, still secondary students did extremely well, much better in some ways than previous years, with a 60, 78% pass rate on summer SOL tests, which was really good.
I was just going to say, I was hosting today and spoke with a couple of folks that were counselors at the camp at the Hungry Mother, and they bragged about how successful that program was and the needs of those children, just not just academically, but the emotional and the social aspect of it, and how beneficial it was, and how much the students seemed to enjoy that. So I'm glad we were afforded the opportunity to do that, but they were very, very positive about the results from that camp.
Yeah, I was also going to say that all the employees, whether bus drivers or wherever, cafeteria and all of them, teachers, everybody, that when they getting ready to participate, or not the summer schools, they had volunteers participate, numbers of teachers there. Hey, yeah, we'd like to do the summer school, and they all went through with a lot of participation and enthusiasm and good results, and they were there for the children. That's what they were for the students, and they did commended it for the good job that they all did for all their summer schools and all the schools.
Mr. Chair, I will mention one thing. I talked to Dr. Austin, BB over here, and she said they will be dedicating those playgrounds, Ms. Lowe, that you and Mr. Brooks got to judge, and I went over the next week and talked to the kids that designed them, and won the competition, and so I think I'll get over there when they dedicate it.
Sure, I'm pleased with you.
So they,
No, you did. There was nothing else, I don't think, to share, except for one thing before we move on to the next item would be that we are seeing signs of great stability even under the circumstances in terms of student academic performance. And Dr. Noe's reviewing that information. Ms. Honecker Martin has provided us with some really good information, and others on the instructional team have provided us with, to include those school leaders in our individual schools. But while we're never satisfied, we always want to achieve and do the best that we can. Student learning, under all the circumstances, I will say, to be forecasted as, looking back at our previous academic performance that we really never talked much about, prior to the heart, I would say the heart of the heat of COVID during the pandemic time. We never really talked about those data points, but those will be coming to you as we move along, and I think you'll be very pleased to know that from previous year's academic scores that we're extremely high standing in the entire Commonwealth of Virginia as a school division, and individual schools have performed outstanding. So I did want to, while we have lots of gaps, we have lots of concerns, me saying that, for me to say that is not to suggest that we have done as well as we'd like to have done during the pandemic like everyone else, and continue to worry about academic performance of student, and particularly what transcends that is student learning and student learning opportunities. So what we're going to talk about next is about what it's going to look like as we move along for school life. School life is so much more than just sitting in a classroom. And so we take very, very seriously any conversations about opening school plans and those kind of things. But I did want to let you know how well our students have performed in the face of incredible adversity. And so we're pleased to be able to share that with you preliminarily, and we'll have more to share with you later. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of gaps to fill like everyone else, and we're dogged determined to make sure that those are covered very well. School opening plans. My pause is more for, it doesn't matter what you say. You're going to have differing opinions and concerns, and wherever you go, you're going to find information that might suggest this and may suggest that. And there's no sage person that sits before you anywhere actually in this room, including myself. So I want to make that comment as we have discussions about what's going to happen for school life for our children. I have yet to find a soul, and we've talked about this, so I'll be very open and public to say that we have these kind of conversations with our leadership team all the time. That there's not a person. There's not an answer. One answer. There is a multiplicity of factors. And there's a multiplicity of answers and solutions to problems that we haven't even faced yet. We have faced some of them. And then, as someone mentioned tonight in public comment, we have an evolving situation. So when it's evolving, it makes it more difficult, and we're up for the task. As we have been, we have done nothing perfectly. We have done nothing with great skill and with wonderful insight until we've had some hindsight. And so I wanted to say that only to set the stage for our conversations tonight that may change. They're going to continue to change. So what you're going to be presented with is the opportunity to see what we think is the best approach. An approach is that you look at things in phases and levels. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. Before I do that, I do want to say how very, very excited we are to even hint at the fact that we're going to have full 5 days of student learning. To be in the place where at this moment, it may change by tomorrow morning, but at this moment, we're not only encouraged, but we're directed by the General Assembly and by the Department of Education to have in-person learning and to offer 5 days of instruction if at all possible. So to be at that point is extremely exciting, and to be able to have our children. There's not a person I suspect in the room, but I know around these tables that hasn't thought about and dreamt about what it would be like to have children in our midst, in person, as many days and as many hours and as many minutes as possible. So I think I can say that safe. And by the nods of your head, I think you agree. And so there's where we are. We're really excited. I want to thank you, board, for what you do every day And I want to thank the administrative staff and the employees here, regardless of what is said, by people that come and engage in conversations and that are a part of the decision making that you are a part of every day. I know, this is personally from Brian Ratliff, I know what you do. And I know where your hearts and your heads are centered. And they're always on students and families. And we will make mistakes. We'll continue to follow things, guidance, and we'll try to consider all of that as we go from every standpoint. So, and I know that you're here for no other reason but to try to provide the best opportunities for our children. And I just want to publicly thank you for that. Board leaders, you have been unwavering in your commitment to that, in your devotion to making sure that that happens and that we just do the best that we can. And as I know I've said it, this man to my right, and you all have said it, this man has said it over and over and over again, that we will absolutely take the best information that we have and make the most informed and the best decisions that we think that we can possibly make with the information that we have. Washington County Schools, before I put anything up on the screen so that you can see a draft in just a moment, Mr. Lester, if you'll hold on that, but is a draft opening plan that we would want to consider, in my opinion. And so what you'll have, again, is a look at the possibility of looking at mitigation strategies at the topic tonight. But it's so much bigger than that. Opening school is so much bigger than just mitigation strategy. And we are 1 week away from having the opportunity, hopefully, we'll have our kids in our schools, in our hallways, in person, instructional, as many as wish to do so on August 9th. And I just want us to enjoy that moment, enjoy the moment that it looks like it's probable that can take place. Now, there's all kinds of things that have happened in the last week or so. One of the things that took place is the Virginia State Health Commissioner on Public Health, the order requiring masks to be worn by all individuals in indoor settings in Virginia schools expired on July 25. So we knew that was going to expire and that it wouldn't be extended. But things have changed. And so there's a lot of information out there that is confusing, because I think folks are trying to once again, in our own kind of way, is build an airplane while we're flying it again. And so we'll do the best that we can. Every school division will develop an opening of school plan comprising of various levels of mitigation, and depending on the current circumstances may include, but I will say this, not limited to social distancing, hand washing, proper mask wearing, vaccination opportunities through the Department of Virginia Health, and lots of cleaning efforts that will continue. That's just good practice. All of those things, those are not limited to those, but those are some of the ones that you've seen in place. There have been temperature screenings and health screenings that have been referenced tonight in public comment, and lots of other things that may be included. The Virginia Department of Education and the Virginia Department of Health recommend that the social distancing be maximized to the greatest extent possible. But again, the schools should not reduce in-person learning. So do you see the difficulty and the complexity of that? So we have been asked and tasked with not reducing in-person learning to maintain a specific minimal distance requirement, but yet it is recommended, and we need to be careful with as much social distancing as we possibly can. That's a difficult charge, not one that, again, that we're not up for the task, but just so you'll know, every school system in the Commonwealth of Virginia, not just Washington County Public Schools, is tasked with the very same thing. Washington County Schools will follow an approach to opening 2021-2022 school year that is a level-based approach, and it'll be based on current circumstances and guidance. At various times through the year, I want to make this crystal clear, at various times throughout the year, a transition from one level to another may be necessary, and it may even be required. So when we speak about where do we start, we're getting started. We have our children coming to us on August 9 as set forth. Where do we start? I want to make it crystal clear that, and I think everyone in this room knows this, but a reminder, if nothing else, that at times during this year, it looks like that a transition from one level to another may end up being necessary. I don't think any of us, in fact, I haven't met a person yet in our entire school community that would ever want to follow mitigation strategies, that would ever want to wear a mask, that would want to be 6 feet apart, 3 feet apart, who would want to engage in these activities. I have yet to meet anyone who wants to do that. So no one in our school system wants that to be the case. We all desire to have a time where there's not mitigation strategies. I'm going to say tonight that all levels of transition in for the opening of schools that I'm going to suggest to you momentarily have to include certain levels of mitigation. So there will be options and there'll be decisions that can be made that allow for that, some flexibility, but at varying levels, there's still going to be more mitigation. Obviously, if you get to level 3 in your decision making, and whatever this board, I work at the wheel of this board, so you may change that, but if we were at level 3, obviously that would be a heightened level of consideration in terms of additional or more stringent mitigation strategies. We hope and pray we're never at that point again. Also, decisions regarding levels may be either determined by federal and state requirements and or grounded in the community and possibly school COVID-19 data. So there'll be, and I'll talk about more of that in just a moment. There's a lot of changing data out there, and I don't know, again, that you can look at those data points. You could choose different data points to go by, but there's other variables that we need to consider, in my opinion, and not just in my opinion. This is what's worked for this board. If you'll reflect back over the last 18 months, that's exactly what you've done. There have been times that there's been dispute and concern when the local decisions, the decisions have been cast upon the localities to make them. It's not without dispute or controversy. But this board, this school system has made we've made decisions based on what we thought was best at the time. And I know we'll continue to do that. One more note, and then I'll have Mr. Lester put some items up on the board. I think I'm up on the board. Listen to me. I am old school, so they're talking about technology there, Dr. Matney. I must not know much about technology either. Then I'm still talking about a board. Still looks like a board. But also want to note during high levels of school community transmission or increasing trends in school outbreaks, at those times, Washington County Public Schools may temporarily require, like I said, more stringent strategies, mitigation strategies, to include universal indoor masking until the data indicates transmission has declined. So those things we all need to be aware of out front. Our goal is to do everything that we can to have as much in-person instruction as we can. So I'm not saying that it's going to require that. I'm hopeful that it wouldn't. But we'd all need to be aware that there will be times that we may temporarily require certain aspects of certain mitigation strategies when previously we didn't have to. Of course, universal masking or any other, could be social distancing and things like that, may be required during times of state executive order, which we are not in. I just mentioned that on July 25th, that was had expired, and there's been no mention of another executive order at this time. And also, if it's at some point in our decisioning, no matter which level, I just want to make sure we understand this, that whatever level we may be in, it may require that masking or other strategies may actually help us maintain 5 days of in-person instruction. So I think we can all agree that that's what's paramount and that's what's most important for us, is that we be able to maintain as much in-person instruction as we can. So if you'll put the draft up there, there's nothing really magical that you're getting ready to see, board. But that one is not the one yeah, there you go. Thank you, Mr. Lester. I know I gave you 3 different items, and forgive me for the way this is just standardly written. It's not in a PowerPoint presentation and all of that. We have some text box and things in there that would make it very cumbersome for you to be able to see, board leaders. So I want to make sure that you have a look at that. If you'll scroll past all of that, because that's what I just discussed.
Actually, we have a copy of this.
And you have a copy of it in the, okay, all right. If you were to look at some mitigation strategies, I'll go through these real quickly. I won't go through every one of them since Mr. Music, if you would rather, I won't. I just want to give you some examples of some level 1, level 2, and level 3. The first one there is the one that it is most frequently spoken of even tonight, is that if you were at level 1, it would be recommended but not required. It'd be optional in most situations. However, students who are under 12 and have not had the opportunity or the option of vaccination, we're making no judgment or push either way on that. But if they haven't had the option or opportunity for that, which they have not, we're hearing that possibly that would be available to the general public in our country as early as this fall, more conceivably late fall. But we haven't gotten any other direction from the Virginia Department of Health or the DOE or the governor's office for that matter regarding, or the commissioner's office really from Richmond as to when that might happen. But those folks will wear a mask even in level 1 when there's small groups, which there are 3 feet or closer for at least 15 minutes to help minimize quarantines, and I'll explain that in just a moment. But also, there have been mentioned that buses and other public transportation, I want to make that very clear, that at all levels, no matter how we choose or plan to open up on Monday, or we transition either way, public transportation to include buses and any vehicle that we would have, it is a federal requirement to have a mask on. So if for example, if I'm driving a bus and we are providing that public transportation, then it is a federal requirement. That is a non-negotiable. So I want to make that clear as far as bus and other public transportation for students and staff. So colleagues would be required by federal law to wear a mask. And then you can see the other stages that can be changed. That's just one example. And then you'll see other ones about face masks for staff, recommended but not required for staff who have been fully vaccinated, strongly recommended but not yet required for unvaccinated staff members. In level 1, you'll see there would be a requirement. In level 2, if we were to transition there, there'd be required for unvaccinated staff. And then in level 3, masks would be required for all, and that goes for everyone in the school community. Then you'll see the hand washing, the social distancing, the cleaning, all of those items on there that you have, as Mr. Music indicated, you all have at your disposal. The other information, if you could head there, Mr. Lester. This is really important for us to understand, and we would be remiss if we didn't explain how you'll have some collision courses from once in a while because of quarantines. Remember, the aim and the goal is to be in school as much as we can in person. So each school continue to work with the Virginia Department of Health, particularly here in our locality, in our district, it's Mount Rogers District. Sadly, we've lost Dr. Shelton to another job at Valid Health, and that position has not been filled yet, but there are staffers there that will work with us to help conduct contact tracing, and then the whole issue of the quarantine of individuals may be required from time to time. Some of the items that I'm getting ready to mention, we have little to no control over. It's important for us to note that. I have given you an update of the updated Virginia Department quarantine guidelines as of July 15, and you'll note parenthetically that I say that would be, or we are indicating that as subject to change. If we will take a minute to dive to the other document, I think this would be an appropriate time for me to share some things on the single sheet, Mr. Lester. Quarantine information as of today, unless it's changed this afternoon. Fully vaccinated individuals are not quarantined unless they become symptomatic. So right now, as of today, we thought that was going to be different because there was some guidance out there about the Delta variant that seems to be prominent. From what I understand today, that is the prominent variant in our community and in our entire footprint. That seems to now have been determined to be the prominent variant. When they were first developing these and changing the what's considered close contact on July 15 or by July 15, we did not have the issue at this point of the Delta variant coming into play. But the fully vaccinated individuals are in school settings are not quarantined unless they become symptomatic. So if they become symptomatic, then they'd have to be quarantined. So you say, why is that important? That's a very important, a critical point. That if you're fully vaccinated, that may make the difference in whether or not you continue to be able to obviously stay in school. And for the matters of discussion for our colleagues, nearing 1,200 of them, largest employer in Washington County, that's a big deal because that means that that we're able to, at this juncture, again, I hate to keep saying it, but it could change, but fully vaccinated individuals would not be quarantined unless they become symptomatic. So that means anyone who is unvaccinated in our school settings, to include staffers, they're subject to the quarantine rules. Close contact is defined by VDH as being within 6 feet of a person with COVID-19 for a total of 15 minutes or more over a 24-hour period, or having exposure to person's respiratory secretions, and you'll see what those are. This is how it's written, so this is not written by me. The person with COVID-19 is considered contagious starting 2 days before they become sick. So I just wanted to let you know that that's a count back, and that's just what, for anyone hearing that's the first time, they say, how can you do that? It's been done the entire time, and so that's a procedure that is figured as far as contact tracing and who's considered close contact. Ms. Nichols, who's just done a phenomenal job. She continues to be on top of things. She does the best she can. She's in close contact with VDH. She's a great communicator here with us at the central office and in all of our schools, and particularly with the nursing staff that's out there. Very professional, very good. They're doing the best they can. They're great with helping us contact tracing. They know how this works. They know how to count back. They know how to assist the VDH in determining who might be quarantined and who would not have to be quarantined. You say, Brian, you're talking about that a lot. There's a reason, because that is going to come into play when we make decisions about school life. An exception may be in indoor K-12 settings. For example, a student who is within 3 to 6 feet of an infected student is not considered close to contact if both students are wearing masks, and the school has other prevention strategies in place, which I've already told you will be the case no matter what level we are. Those other prevention strategies will be in place. This exception does not apply to teachers, staff, or other adults in K-12 settings. So, again, not to look for any kind of sympathy on that matter. It's just some understanding that then you have a different situation with adults as you would with children. So it's not as easy as people may want to purport. It's not that easy. So it's really clear that you have to follow the quarantine guidelines and make sure that those are a part of your decision making in terms of what it would look like and the viability of keeping schools open at some point, or at least a particular school or classroom, or making sure that you can staff your building. So that's a really critical point for everyone to understand, no matter what level we are in. I don't think you need to go back to the other document at this point. Mr. Lester, I think I can just read it, so if you'll just stay put on that one. Thank you, sir. There has been, for all of the areas, like for visitors, masks will be worn by visitors who are not fully vaccinated, at least even in level 1. If we were to go with level 1 and investigate the viability of starting at level 1, visitors will be allowed in the buildings even in level 2 by appointment only, and will be required to wear a mask. At level 3, obviously, no visitors would be allowed in the buildings, just like what we've had before, unless it's a particular situation that's already been understood and approved. Community use is another question that you're going to hear about, and I'll talk about school closure and then move back to this document. But use of school facilities, the groups with building level administration approval may use school facilities. Now, all this is, again, at this time, but in levels 1 and 2, they may be used. Adults must either sign an affidavit stating that they're fully vaccinated or wear a mask while on school property. This is not to say that people aren't allowed on school property. This is talking about the use of our facilities. So that's a different matter. In level 3, there would be no, and again, we hope we're never at that level, but if we are, there would be no community use of schools. School closure is another issue. I did want to make it clear. We have been through an awful lot, and we've learned a lot, and we got a whole lot more to learn about how to handle a situation where we would have to deal with a school closure again. So whether it be a required or mandated school closure, or one that we're in a situation locally and just real localized here in Washington County where we would have to consider school closures or a school to close at any point. Again, we're always so hopeful that that'll never happen again. But should it happen again, Washington County Schools is prepared to continue with some of our one-on-one device initiatives for this coming school year. Students and staff would be prepared at that point to utilize full remote learning in the event that schools would be closed specifically for a COVID-related or pandemic health crisis situation. So those aren't necessarily caveats. Those are hopeful that we'll never have to go through that again, but that is something that we do have to consider. If you'll go down to Mr. Lester, thank you for doing this, and thank you for being so patient, Lord, and everyone. Preventative strategies are in place. I'm sorry, if you'll go back to that other document, Mr. Lester, that's my fault. Thank you. Not being a good teacher tonight. The preventative strategies, you know these. There are other ones that can be included, and I will go to that sheet that Mr. Lester showed just a moment ago. I know Dr. Wallace, Dr. Noe, Ms. Nichols, and others, but those three in particular have been talking about what it looks like before we've established screening processes would take place and things like that. We'll talk about that momentarily, but these are just some of them. I won't read them all to you, but those are some of the strategies being in place. The next portion down is one that I think needs to be real clear, crystal clear. Again, going back to, there are times that we would have to, and it'd be our responsibility to consider different levels of consideration when having schools open. These are the variables to consider. For us to point to one specific variable, we have learned over time, you all have helped direct that, is that that's not prudent. If you just look at one particular variable when considering making a different change or adding mitigation strategies or even closing schools or whatever it might be, these are just some of the variables that may apply. There could be others, but school transmission, school outbreaks is obviously a huge one. We had tremendous success throughout the pandemic, or the intense pandemic portion of last school year, that we had very little issues with school transmission. There were no times that I can remember prior to having to close or go into all virtual and those all remote learning, all those things, distance learning, where we were contributing to the problem. And a couple of you asked that question, raised that question all throughout our discussions. So I don't want to rehash those, but I think I'd be really remiss and irresponsible not to at least revisit them and to have the conversations that what you have done, you've done a really, really solid job of making decisions with the best information that you have at the time. And so staffing issues, I just described to you what a quarantine would look like. Again, little to essentially, in that case, no control over who might be quarantined in our community. Staffing issues is a big consideration, and you have to look at that. Again, we have nearly 7,000 students in our care, and so when it gets to the point where if it gets to the point where we're not able to aptly staff, then we have to think of what's next in order to protect from that and to help with that. Widespread transmissions and community outbreaks, obviously that's the one that most people point to, because you'll see information coming at the national level, the state level, where you see something's red or orange or yellow, and you'll see that changes every day. Virginia Department of Health today has not updated their information as to the week ending. It was the week ending the 24th, so we did not, and it may be on there tonight. 10 minutes before the meeting tonight, it was not available. But those are things that we have to look at as well. We have to look at the Virginia Department of Health information and see what the community and the widespread transmission and community outbreaks may look like as well. And then the last one is, that really applies here, is something I've already mentioned, and I apologize for redundancy, but I think it's important to note again and to reemphasize that any state or federal level requirement would have to be considered as well. And then there could be other variables that we're not aware of yet. And I'm not saying that to have a catch-all, but I'm saying that because it's just the way it works. And that's the way, that's our reality. Our reality is that variables will change. And we can fight and fuss and go back and forth all the time about it, but they will change. So we have to say that there may be other variables that would have to be applied. If you'll just show that one other sheet, and I promise you this is the last sheet, and we can talk about where we are.
I just certainly never thought we would have these conversations that a year later we would have similar conversations.
I know,
and it's unfortunate. It's none of our fault.
Yes, sir, and that's a really good point, and that is, with the excitement of an executive order having that expiration date of July 25, and to be able to do some things a little differently that at least felt like normalcy, and then to be in the situation that we're in, have these discussions is very difficult, you're right. What we've done before is we've had a student and employee health screening and monitoring during COVID-19 the entire time we've been doing this. And so what you'll see on the screen or in front of you, I think I've given that information to you board leaders, that there'll still be daily health screens of students and an expectation where by that parents would need to help us with monitoring themselves and monitoring their children. Same thing with our teachers. We have a practice of doing that. You'll also see that there's some symptoms that you may have with COVID-19. When you look at a symptom on here, again, please, in all of our conversations, let's don't take anything in isolation. Those are just symptoms that may occur. So just because you have one of those certainly does not indicate that you have COVID-19. But those are symptoms I think it's important for our parents in particular to make informed decisions about their children and when it is that they wish to have them tested, or certainly to stay at home when they're sick. The last portion of that is regarding screening questions. These are some of the screening questions that we'll need to have students and staff assess for symptoms of COVID-19 before reporting to school. I think it was mentioned tonight, someone mentioned in public comment, that is an inconvenience, but it is one that is worth having in place in terms of screening, and it is most helpful. We have temperature checks, we have all kinds of things that we can do. We have nurses on staff and on call all the time. And if they're not available, if someone happens to be out, we have a large contingency of people in our our school health coordinator, Ms. Paula Nichols, who avails herself regularly to work with making sure that the protocol is in place and that we have screening mechanisms should we need them in our schools, or as we need them. So really, I think the last thing I want to say in repetitive nature with intentionality is that our aim and our goal is to maintain 5 days per week of instruction as much as possible. We're at a place right now where we're starting Monday. There are several school systems that will start before us. Today is the 2nd. I don't think anyone in our region has started. You all correct me. You all talk with folks probably as much or more than I do about that, but I do know that we have at least 2, maybe 3 that are starting this week in our region. And then we're up next on our calendars, just like our calendar did. And I know a neighboring county just next door to us will start on August 10, or are set to start on August 10. And then you'll see various school systems in our region that will follow that over the next week or so after that. But I dare say that most of them will be opened up by at least August 20. I don't know, Dr. Noe or Dr. Wallace, if you are aware of anyone that opens up past that point in our region.
I think Grayson's got the renovation going on.
So they're going to be a little prolonged in their opening. Yeah, Russell had that issue last year where they were trying to finish up some construction projects and things like that. So the leveled approach is, again, there's nothing artful about it. I'm not suggesting that it is something that's going to be a perfect mechanism. Who would have that in a 10-day period where things have changed? But we sit in a place where I do believe that some of those levels provide you with some viable options and where we are. It depends on which site you look at or what you look at as to where we are with community transmission, the school transmission, and all the things I talked about. We're unable to share that until we start somewhere in opening schools. So again, thank you for the long-windedness of that, but I thought it was important to cast an accurate description of how complex this is, first of all, and how important it is that we just understand that this is fluid. And we could make a decision today that we feel like is ample and proper and helpful to get our students in school. And, we could hear something. I'm not suggesting there will be. I haven't heard that, so please don't accept that as any kind of prognosticated kind of behavior on my part, because I have heard nothing. We have heard that we may get additional guidance from the Department of Education and other players in the state sometime this week, but I have not heard anything since that was made in a comment last week with the Virginia Department of Education. So I do not have any kind of, I cannot predispose us to any of that, but I will say this, that we need to be prepared for the fact that things can change even at that level in terms of guidance and or requirement.
Board have any? Ms. Hamilton?
Where with this tier level are you suggesting we start right now?
We're going to start right this minute.
Yes.
I would, based on what I know, don't like getting right out of the gate on that one.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, we could start at all of it. No, we wouldn't start level 3, but we could consider with the concerns regarding unvaccinated opportunities for 12 and under, level 2. But I think with level 1, where we are right now, I believe that if I were recommending or thinking, that's probably where we would start and plan to start there. Again, I do think that the trajectory of what we're seeing may put us in a situation where we're going to have to make a decision. Hopefully not in the near future. And I would hope that we could stay right there in level 1, but that's where I would think that it would be our viable spot at this moment. It's level 1.
Back in the heat up last year, when everything was new, I remember that there was a shift in what the Virginia Department of Health told us to look at in terms of school closures. It was more based off school data.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that going to be our sole focus? So even if cases rise and hospitalizations rise, but they're not coming from the school, through contact tracing we find that out, that wouldn't technically force us to move levels if we're solely just looking at school data.
Yeah, but we wouldn't solely look at the school data because I don't think we can, because this is a whole new scenario, I think. Should we look at school data first and those contributions? I think that has served us well. Yes, I believe that. But as I've said before, I think there are other variables that come into play, to include community transmission. I am not in a place, I hope this doesn't disappoint anyone, but I'm not in a place to be able to decide that at this point. I'm not the decision maker about that, but I would say that my recommendation is to look at school data because that's what we're talking about, is children in school. Look at the school data and any kind of, whether or not there are any contributions, or contribution is not a good word to make about this, but any kind of issues with school transmission and outbreaks in particular. So I do think that is your first layer of consideration, because I think that's the most severe. That's where you would have the most difficulty. Again, I'm not a community health expert by any stretch, and so I would not want to say that we wouldn't look at other data, hospitalizations, those kind of things. But I do think that our initial focus needs to be on school community data.
And last year, when looking at the success of lack of outbreaks in the school and transmission, those were based off mitigations that we put in, like social distancing, mask, things of that nature.
And I mean, it's a huge part of, I guess we would call that our abilities, our capacity to minimize transmissions and quarantines would be based on some of the mitigation strategies we had in place, yes. I don't know if that's what you're saying. Maybe not.
No,
Okay.
I just want to make sure. I think it's important for us to realize that things that are out of our control, and we're talking about quarantining and what would be required if we took, if we're even at level 1, we're increasing the probability of quarantines and people being out of in-person learning. And I think that's a factor to look at and remind us of the fact that we were successful because we had all those different layers. It wasn't just because of one approach.
Good point.
Around that time, we did all those mitigation strategies. None of our faculty and staff, our students, were vaccinated. We've done that. Also, I feel like, and I don't have any results, but I think our students were safer in our schools at that time. Although we did have the mask, but now when we're all, not all, but the majority are vaccinated, you know, I think we could be in good shape with that tier 1. That's just me.
The vaccination, that's a good point as well. We were just a reminder that we were actually, along with Bristol City, we're the first, Bristol City schools, we were the first school system, one of the first school systems in the entire state of Virginia to get vaccinations. Or have the opportunity for that. We had a large contingency of our staff who willingly, even without data to suggest this or suggest that, they very openly and willingly rolled up their sleeves. And so on January 11, we had our first vaccination opportunity. And other people, by choice, as other people, if you'll remember at that time, only certain people were allowed to get the vaccination through emergency authorization, in which it still sits and it's ready to move to full authorization. But for emergency authorization of that particular vaccine, we were very fortunate to have that opportunity, and we had a large contingency of our employee that chose to be vaccinated at that time. So, Mr. Henderson, to your point, that is a mitigation strategy that we didn't have until such time, and we didn't have fully vaccinated individuals until really by way of waiting the 2 weeks after the second dose through February 22nd. So I don't know what the percentage is. Ms. Nichols is probably listening. She may tell her husband, is he still here? I don't know if Deputy Nichols is still here or not. She may tell him that I'm incorrect, but I would dare say that it was 75 to 80% of our folks that, so that is a really good point about that strategy, mitigation that was not in place during that time. It is now.
A couple of things. We've heard from a number of parents who have said, if you don't require universal masking, I am not going to allow my child to go in person. And we've also heard from parents who said, if you require masks, I am not going to allow my child to go in person. And so people are waiting for an answer. I think it's fair to say out there, they're waiting for us to say, everybody's going to wear a mask, nobody's going to wear a mask, or we're not going to require masks. They will be, I take that back, that they are voluntary wearing masks. And we also have a deadline for the virtual academy coming up. And I just wonder what kind of, we aren't really giving an answer to that question. I think it's fair to say. We're saying we are requiring that you think probably on Monday, August 9th, we'll be at level 1, which would be masks for our elementary students, well, 12 and under, which would include part of our middle schoolers. Is that not what I'm reading? When they are in small groups, when they're close together, when they are close to less than 3 feet apart, is what I'm seeing here, right? And so that would be the answer for some of the parents. Yet we might go to level 2 based on some factors out there? I know this is a really, really awful, hard question, and it's one we're all facing, throughout the day, hour by hour, but it's not that simple, and we all know that. What guidance can we give to parents with this?
Depends on which level we choose to go.
That's it.
And
The guidance is very clear on whichever level that we decide to go.
are you expecting us to choose that level tonight?
Yes.
Were you expecting for the school board to set that level
Based on
tonight?
Mrs. Hamilton's question of me, what will we do today with the information that we have? I do think it would be appropriate to at least say what our plan is. For the only reason I've mentioned repeatedly that it can change is just because I want us to be aware of what is the profound statement of the obvious is that it could change. But the answer to the question is, I think that the expectation would be a week from school starting is that we should have a plan in place as to which level that we would choose. Or if you're not going to use this format and this approach to opening schools, then we need to have that discussion as to how it is that we are going to make that decision. But it is, the answer is yes. I think the expectation would be that we offer a plan, just knowing that there may be schools starting in a week, and here we are. So yes, I think the expectation would be to make a decision based on that.
One more comment on that. I am just saddened terribly that our students cannot be universally excited about school starting next week, and they know what's going to happen. It just makes me so sad that families are struggling like this. And when Mr. Music said, a year ago when we were working on this, we never would have thought that. When school let out in May, it never occurred to me we were going to be sitting here struggling through this at this point.
Thing is, we can sit here for a week and flip the coin. I mean, there's data that shows this, there's data that shows this. As we said, and I think back a year ago, all of this is management tools, and it's here. It's not going to go away, and how you react to it is based on how you manage it. I mean, it's all about how you manage it. And, last year we done a pretty good job of managing it, and I was asked by the media, and I remember my response. Right now, we're at the point where we feel like we can manage it. When it comes to the point where our management tools are not working, or we can't manage it anymore, then you have to do something different. And that's what it's all about. And for my part, I'm of the opinion that we give people an opportunity to voluntarily wear a mask with the level 1, and it's up to you. It's up to everybody and their behavior and what they do with it as to whether it's going to work or not. I mean, it's up to everybody. It's up to the staff. It's up to the parents. It's up to the students. It's up to all of us to see that here's what we've asked you to do, and here's what we need you to do. And it's all about, I've heard, everywhere I go, are we going 5 days a week? I really don't care whether my kid has to wear a mask or they don't. I just want my kid in school 5 days a week. That's what I'm hearing. And they're not hung up on a mask. But, I understand the science. I understand that aspect of it. I also understand that, I'm hearing parents and grandparents say these masks are harmful to my kid. They come home with headaches. They wore a mask all day. Another consideration is their natural immune system, whether they're going to be able to, if we're going to mask it to where they don't have the immunity to fight something off. It's a different generation than when I grew up. We were outside in the dirt and cow manure and everything else, and we had a pretty good immunity. We live in a generation now that most kids are not on a farm. They don't have the opportunity that I had when I was a kid to grow up. And I'm thankful for that, but I realize most kids don't have that And so, I mean, it's up to the board. That's just my 2 cents worth. That's where I'm at tonight.
I want to yes and that. I've had many thoughts on this, and some of the ones you just stated definitely had. I'm going to add yes and to it and say, too, I believe in parent choice. I also recognize, though, there's a demographic of students who don't have a choice yet in the vaccination. And so that's where I struggle in terms of protecting, especially those who don't have a choice right now. I'm not saying I'm for or against. I'm just saying these are the things that I think we're all, wrestling with in our minds on making the correct choice.
It's not, and we haven't, none of us taken it lightly. I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy for anybody.
Mr. Chair, what I like about it, Dr. Ratliff and his staff has handed down this a 3-level program. And if level 1 doesn't work, we like all the things he went over. If they show up, we have to go to level 2 or level. At least we do have a plan, and go with that. That's just what I'm thinking. That's my 2 cents worth.
I'd like to go back to Ms. Lowe's comment. She made a good point that regardless of which level we choose, the virtual academy could be an option for a lot of people. And our deadline that's set for this week, to me, would not be realistic for those people to make those choices, in my opinion, right now. But I want to hear from staff. Should people decide to go virtual, what realm does that put us in? Should they decide to do that with the company through Virtual Academy, the timelines of Virtual Academy, the amount of number of students that we, have for Virtual Academy, or the possibility that we may have for that. I just think, whichever level we go with, both sides need to have each option available to them. So I think it might clarify maybe what, Ms. Lowe, I'm not talking particularly about you, but I'm just saying Virtual Academy with the deadline, and then the decision's made, they might need some time to make that decision.
There is a time frame that it takes to get students enrolled, check what we need to check, get things taken care of. So there is a week maximum amount of time, and that's probably cutting short really what it needs to be between when they enroll and when they would start school, which is on August the 16th. The company we're working with in the past would have already cut that enrollment off if it were up to them.
Right.
We've extended it because we're doing most of that work ourselves, and so that gives us a little bit of additional time. There is a date that we would no longer be able to accept and have students ready to begin school through the Virtual Academy when on the 16th.
And how many slots do we have?
Currently, we have 215 students that are enrolled.
So we have unlimited?
We have as many as we want to pay for.
Okay.
So when would you, in your estimation, say that if a decision is made by this board tonight, that parents can we extend past, if they're not starting Virtual Academy until the 16th, is that correct?
That's the first day of school for the Virtual Academy.
So
it's a week later than we are.
So the 9th?
The 9th is too close. The last day that we could, because we would have to really start buckling down the week of the 9th to get the work done that needs to occur for them to be enrolled between us, our systems, and the Virtual Academy systems. It's not a one-step process. It would have to be, instead of the 3rd or the 4th Wednesday at noon, it would have to be Friday at noon. So there would be 2 additional days. And that's drop dead. No other, I don't know of any other way to get it done. And they have to meet the criteria unless we change that.
Right.
We've had students and families who did not meet the criteria. We've had families that signed up and have withdrawn.
And it's important to note that if you are not accepted into the Virtual Academy, the expectation is that you'll be in a Washington County school on Monday the 9th in person. And
there are other options, but it is the law that they be in school.
Right. And our hope that you would be in school in person also to do that. So I just want to throw something out that, we've all been hearing from lots of people on lots of sides and bombarded with people about this. I got a text this morning that you may or may not support the position, but this person said to me, I support masks for everyone if it will keep us very far away from virtual or anything that resembles last school year. And I think that it's important, regardless of how you feel in that issue, to know what our struggle is, because we recognize how awful it was for some students and their families. And that's the struggle here, is trying to find a way that we can do things so much better 5 days a week. We aren't doing hybrid, we aren't doing, we are trying to get our students in school and staying in school, and we need families working with us on that. We need everyone working with us on that, and not just saying it's my way or the highway. And that's the hard part for us right now, because people are passionate about their opinions on this.
You go out into the community, and even here we hear different things, but you go out in the community and listen, you're going to hear mask or no mask. I like my kids to go to school, but I like them to wear a mask. Others will say, we need to get school open. Kids need to be in school, and that's true. We do. They need to be in school, but I don't think we need the mask. So, parents, you're not going to. Everybody is not going to be agreeable with whatever decision we make. We just come up with the best decision we think will be best for the students, to get them in school, and that's what school is for, to learn and to get them in there and do the best we can with them, and have a plan to go in whatever we have to do. We had a plan. We changed a couple times our last year, so we had to do some changes. So we might have, and it worked out to the best of I think any location around anywhere. So. We might have to change again, but we need to start. I think we need to start, and plan one, I think, would be a good, be the best place to start.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we use a three-tier plan, starting out with level 1. And also, with my motion, I'd like to say that if anything happens, that, we have a influx of COVID or whatever in the county, we give Dr. Ratliff the power to go ahead and go to level 2 or level 3, whatever it takes to keep us going in scope. We'll start out with level 1.
A second. Motion by Mr. Henderson, a second by Mr. Brooks, that we accept Dr. Ratliff's plan for reopening the fall of 2001. With the understanding that we would start school at level 1, and also with the understanding that if things change rapidly, that Dr. Ratliff would have the authority, this board, to change to the next level if necessary. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Motion and second. Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries 4-2.
I'd like to make, then we know that there will be students will have, some of them will have masks and some of them won't have masks. And we have seen just here in our boardroom sometimes that people can get really excited sometimes, either yay or nay, or against something. And I'm sure that our administrators and the teachers will emphasize pretty strong to the students. This is a parental choice that they're here, if they need to wear the mask, if the parent wants them to wear the mask. If they don't have masks, the parents don't want to wear the mask. So be emphasized strong in a way there. We just don't need to be critical of anybody else. If they're wearing a mask and we're not, we just need to respect their with the mask on, and they need to respect me with not gonna have a mask, and be respectful of each other in the classrooms, and I'm sure they will.
That's a good point, Mr. President. Good point. Moving on to 10.03, did you have anything else about that?
I want to make sure that it is clear that it is recommended that you wear a mask. So that recommended,
It's
recommended but not required.
Yeah, it's not required. Staffing update.
The staffing update, we got, all met a lot of new teachers the other day, and Dr. Noe has informed me that Dr. Wallace, I know his office has been tossing out those vacancies, and you all have been seeing them. A couple of you have said something about that, and I say that with a smile because you met on Thursday just outstanding new educators, highly professional, highly trained, and equipped, and excited about working with your students. And so I'm pleased to announce that it's well over 50, and it's probably right now, as of today, Dr. Noe is probably closer to 60. It's 60.
You got a few more?
You got a few more coming. We do have a situation where we are looking. I just wanted you to be aware. We'll give you an update on the 16th. Should have better information about who has filled, you'll know who filled them by a closed session matter and approving those personnel selections. But just wanted you to be aware that we have some really, really good new teachers coming to us. You already met them. And thank you all for those of you who were able to interact with them and the messages you've sent to them in terms of encouraging them. That means a lot. The staffing. Sorry?
You've got a week.
We got
working.
Crazy. It's nonstop, Dr. Brandon.
Oh my God.
You know what that's like. You've been there.
5 days.
We do have some, I think Dr. Noe just said he was in the right place at the right time on one of them today, and he with a science position, and he was saying that, it kind of focused, and it came, and then there's openings in different schools, and I know that all of our staff is ears wide open and eyes wide open trying to find them. And you're right, Dr. Brandon, you got 5 days, so I suspect we'll be doing business to make those calls all the way up till Monday morning. But we certainly hope to have them all. We're in a lot better shape than a lot of folks, right? Dr. Wallace and Dr. Noe, we don't gloat in that. We're just grateful.
We're just sharing them back and forth.
It's the truth. Yeah, people are going back and forth for sure, and for all the right reasons for the most part, and they making decisions based on family needs and all that. So we all try to be as courteous and professional as we can with each other. The superintendent's had that agreement, and we don't do it perfectly, but we try to be very considerate of one another in that regard. But we are in a favorable position by comparison. I wanted to mention that at Damascus Middle School, just several years back, we had a situation where we were able to consolidate some teaching assignments and did some things, and it left, based on numbers at the time, it left a vacated content area where we had at Damascus Middle School in one grade level less than 4 teachers, or 3 teachers, less than 4. It was 3 teachers at one grade level, and we were able to do it, and we could continue to do it, but it's not a good situation in terms of scheduling and for teachers in a particular content area. So I wanted to revisit that notion that we would, specifically at Damascus Middle School, even if it meant not having the itinerant substitute available, that it would behoove us to consider adding that position back so that each grade level has 4 grade level teachers. The numbers they fluctuate, yes, so it's not just a clear cut about the numbers. It's about having an equity framework built in place at all grade levels for those teachers. So my recommendation is to move forward with adding that particular position back. And I wanted you to be aware of
Between now and next Monday?
We'll work toward that in Ms. Love. We will work toward it. Again, we'll have to do what we have to do until such time that we fill that position. But That's a good question. We have, as Dr. Brandon just said, we have 5 days, so to add another one. That's why Dr. Noe was laughing about there may be more. So that's one of the reasons.
What's the student-teacher ratio to go from 4-teacher team instead of a 3-teacher team?
With the current numbers, I would have to pull that. Dr. Noe, I wouldn't know. I mean, I think it's going to still be within a range, Dr. Brandon. I don't think you're going to see a significant drop. It'll be within a range of 12 to 16 teachers.
Somewhere in that range would be
fair
accurate.
enough?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't have that exact number yet. Until they get in the seats and we have them show up in person, we may not have that exact number.
Are they currently teaching in a 3-teacher team? Somebody sharing social studies and language arts? Science. And then English and math, or language arts and math separately?
Correct, yes, sir.
And the plan is to go to a 4-person team?
So it'll be like the other grade levels. They'll have that.
A 4-person team or 2 teams of 2 teachers teaching 4 subjects?
There's 2 4-person teams, 7 and 8. 6 is a 3-person team. Add another one, you'd have all 3 4-person teams.
That's what I meant by equity framework in the school, that you'd have 4-person teams at each grade level instead of.
Is that present in all 3 middle schools? 4 middle schools?
That equal distribution across the grade levels in their team configuration? I have no idea.
It's not. So if we need a teacher, that's fine, but there's no use saying it's equal representation or distribution across team levels. There's no way.
But each middle school has at least 4 core teachers in each grade level. I mean, none of them have less. None of the other have less than 4 grade levels.
So they don't have to teach social studies and science in addition to math and English.
Okay, that's fine.
I think what's happening right now is that students are only getting 30 minutes of science and 30 minutes of social or history. We should be getting a full block of each subject.
Yeah.
So they're losing, and then when they get to 8th grade and need to take the science SOL, they've been shorted on the material that should have been covered in 6th grade. So, and it's, I mean, you all know. We all know what a transition it is for students to go from 5th grade in elementary school to the middle school. It's a huge transition. The fact that they haven't had, the instruction. So I'm afraid if they don't, my thing was if they don't get called out pretty quick, that, and have the support at home that they need, that they won't get caught up, and they'll get frustrated and they'll struggle and they won't be successful in high school.
And just a point of clarification, because that's a really good question and a good point that we need to look at across the other 3 middle schools. My comment about equity framework was within the school, not with the other, but not thinking about the other situations that may
Well, if 30 minutes of science and social studies is not good for those, then we need to make sure that that's not happening at another middle school.
Yeah,
it's a really good.
That was really my
really good point, and one that we would need to look at and bring back to the table, Dr. Brandon. Really good point.
I don't have any problem hiring this person.
No, thank you for bringing that up. Good point. The other thing regarding staffing update is that we've already mentioned is that we do have some current vacancies and we could have additional ones. We hope to bring you great news on the 16th that or even before then. I'll send you a message to give you that good news is that and when you quit seeing postings, you'll know that our vacancies have been filled. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is something I mentioned at the meeting before last is about here at instructional leadership. I'll brag on all of our folks that have taken on new responsibilities, but we've already worked Dr. Williams to the bone. And so just so you'll know, Doctor, I know you mentioned that today, that we've already seen just a great deal of work in the innovation and the digital learning and with the virtual academy, a great deal of work that is involved there. I'd also mentioned to you that in times past, we've fluctuated in order to make room for other positions, particularly administratively, that we went without or we patch. The patch is not the right word, is it? Is to have other people have administrative assignments for coverage purposes, whether it be with grants, preschool, and those kind of things. And so mentioning those two, there's a big need there, and it remains there. So we'd had that discussion before. Ms. Lowe, I think, as she always does, asked a couple of very good questions about that. And I think you made a comment how important it is to, if that's what our need is and we're able to do that, to make sure that we address that. I bring it up tonight because at some point in the near future, possibly even the next board meeting, I'd like to discuss the possibility of coming up with an instructional leadership position for certain areas and cast that out to you for consideration within our budget. And you know, some of those areas I mentioned, whether it be federal programs that we no longer have a specific coordinator for, some of the earlier elementary programs, the early childhood programs to include preschool. It'll come to me there with preschool, and there may be some other programs that we could really be efficient with the use of someone administering those programs, and then really not be at a high dollar at all. In fact, it could be that if we do what we always do, is we look at ways to make it cost neutral. And so if we're able to do that, I think at this time, just like we've done with other positions, is that we'll continue to work in that vein. But we need to do what's best for our kids. We need to have opportunities to make sure that all the grant applications, everything that's, I mean, there's much more than that, to make sure proper instruction, learning opportunities for our pre-K learners and our early childhood folks get that opportunity. So I wanted to bring that up to you tonight.
And we've got 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds.
We do. Yes,
got it
sir.
all.
Yes, sir, Dr. Brand. We do, and we're participating in pilot programs, and we're meeting kids earlier and earlier, and meeting them where they are. And we need to make sure that we're well organized, not just intellectually organized on paper, but that we're well organized and prepared to give the proper guidance and their due. So on August 16, I wanted to prepare you for the possibility of mentioning that again, and with the possibility of meeting their needs in that regard and adding.
Would it be an 80% position or a full position?
No, that would be a full position, sir. No.
Well, other than HR having 5 days to fill all the vacancies, and I know they have the staff to get it done down there, I think instruction is absolutely going forward over the next 3 to 5 years going to be the most important area we have in the school division, in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
I just think instruction and the guidance and getting it structured properly and making sure we can, whatever we find out when we get the kids back this year, to make some good decisions and have people in place that can help carry it out. So that's just my opinion.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and that's it on staff, and I think at this moment, Dr. Noe or Dr. Walsh, unless you have some sort of announcement to make that I haven't heard about, from 6 o'clock on. So is there anything else that you all need to add about staff? Sorry to stroke you out there, Dr. Noe, but no pressure the way it is. Thank you for your adaptability and your support in that regard and your trust. We're going to do everything we can to maximize our monies and be good stewards, as we always are, to structure the best learning environment for our kids.
Maybe 14 to 1.
14 to 1, there we go. So split right in the middle of my 12 to 16, Dr. DeBrand. Sometimes it's better to be lucky.
I didn't have a problem with it. You just don't want the perception that if that's what it is, and then you find out other schools, you don't want them coming back and seeing one of you all saying, well, wait a minute.
We'll be on it. I suspect people are already on it, so thank you.
Question in regards to staffing, and I think I asked this in regards to the new teacher mentor program a while ago, and I think it goes here is, do we have any record of our turnover rate and retention in general over a certain amount of time, especially in the past couple of years?
I mean, we don't have any record that we're maintaining. I mean, we could probably gather that data.
Not this week.
Yeah, not this week. I'm not asking that. I'm just saying.
You can handle that.
I would love to look at that. Because, I mean, of course, I've only been on the board for 19 months. And so I don't.
Be on the board too.
Yeah. And so I don't know what's a normal turnover, and are we seeing a higher rate of that? versus 10 years ago? And if that's the case, you know, that's a workforce development issue, and that we've got to start problem solving and working with community partners on. Otherwise, we're not going to have people to fill those positions.
I think, you know, it may be tough for me to go back and collect data from prior to my existence in the job I'm in. I mean, I don't know how. I would have to look at, I mean, we have records and we keep them on docs. That can be a little bit of a tough process. I mean, the last year and a half, the data's going to be much different than what it would be under normal circumstances. I will say I've probably seen more people that I talked to that have exited. And it's not a large portion, but they went to other occupations, period.
See, and I want to know more about that. Yeah.
Well, I think an exit interview then, to get them to work on an exit interview to come up with, when I don't know if we do one or not, I can't answer that question, but that certainly would provide you that data going forward. And my answer to your question is absolutely yes. From 10 years ago, it's completely different.
Okay.
Just from experience. Now, I can't factually tell you that,
yeah.
but I would almost lay my ink pen on it that it is. And I think if we did an exit interview for employees when they do leave, then that could start providing some of the data that you're asking.
There's so many different variables. I mean, we've seen, you know, folks go to an adjacent county for more money mid-career. I think we've worked really hard with our board of supervisors to become really competitive in the area. And I don't think we have people want to leave that want to work in education. I think they want to come to Washington County and work. You know, we see that variable that we have a good teacher and their spouse leaves and takes employment somewhere else, which is out of control.
Right.
With COVID and all of these things, people are just, as you said, they're leaving. They're just burnt out. I mean, they don't want to deal with it anymore. Politics and all those things are just burnt out, and they're tired of education. So,
and that's a small number. I mean, when I do want to say that,
you see more of that early career than you do, you know, someone that's got 20 years in, and you know, at that point.
And it's not really just Washington County.
No,
it's other counties, and you know, and Dr. Wallace can tell you for sure, and I can go to Smith County and tell you the same thing. They're losing. They're not getting science teachers or math teachers. They're going to other careers because more pay, even though our pay is pretty good here in Washington County. We've developed 23 years top of the scale. A lot of times our employees don't have to pick up their benefits with the insurance. We pick that up. So, you know, I think we do good things to keep our employees here, but sometimes it's just out of, like Mr. Music said, it's out of our control. And that's one thing when I see a resignation, I look and see, and the majority of them is either they're, you know, maybe some type of sickness or some type of their husband or their spouse is moving on to another job, like Mr. Music said. So I don't think people are leaving Washington County because we're not treating them.
But to your point and Dr. Brown's point, it'd be good to know. I mean, it's valuable information. Is it something that would be? Is there 10% of those that we could retain if we done something different? So I think it's important to know.
Can I say a few things?
Yes,
you have time.
Yes.
I think I'd say, you know, people once they make a decision to leave, they're usually pretty set. I try to meet with all those people that, depending on where they're going, like if they're jumping the border and going to Tennessee or someplace, and I talk about retirement, I talk about this. I'm not here to talk you out of it. I want to make you aware of what you're leaving on the table. That's really all I'm doing. I'd say of those conversations, probably 40%, that's a guesstimate, 30% have chose to not leave after hearing the benefits of supplemental, of VRS, of sick leave, I go through the gamut with them. If, you know, here's what we offer as a division. So that's the first thing. I think that's important to hear because once people hear that, and so we've had a couple of people cycle back, even in just my 8 years down in HR, that have left and thought, yeah, it was pretty good. And so they've come back. We do have other areas that are getting very tough to fill outside of teaching that I think that Dr. Ralph and I have talked about that it's getting extremely difficult to fill positions. And there's lots of reasons for that. We'll do that.
Item 11.01, approve the meeting agenda for August 16th, 2021. It's posted on board docs. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion we approve that agenda
Tentative
for the
agenda.
August 16th meeting in 2021. Mr. Chair, if there's no amendments.
I'd like to do an amendment to look at modernization of restroom facilities. Add that to the agenda.
I'll change my motion then.
I'll have a second.
That's okay.
Matt, now, yes, I know it's not discussion time, but I'm not board member. Just, may we include, because I think just for the discussion in general, Dr. Brandon, and for everybody, is that to also include other school modernization.
Oh,
efforts.
absolutely. School modernization in general. I amend my motion to say school modernization be added to the agenda for discussion.
I'd just like the opportunity.
Absolutely. That was my mistake.
The other
Sure.
facility improvements
Sure.
we want to do.
Sure.
So, Mr. Henderson, you're making a motion to approve the agenda and including school adding school modernization.
Mr. Brandon's amendment, yes.
So do I have a second?
Second.
Who's that? We have a motion by Mr. Henderson, the second by Dr. Brandon, and we approve the August 16th, 2021 school board meeting with adding the addition of school modernization for discussion. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Item 12.01, update to the board. Ms. Hamilton, I'll start with you.
Well, first, I want to say I'm very excited about a 5-day in-person learning school year starting. And I'm grateful that we have Virtual Academy as a choice now, so we're not burdening our teachers with that endeavor. So I'm hopeful that the school year is going to start off on a much, what's the word I'm going to use? Like more of a high note than a low note compared to last year. I am interested in learning more about how, I guess it was a couple months ago, we were talking about just student connection and social emotional learning and fostering that environment and thinking about the fact that students who normally would have had an orientation didn't have that maybe last year, how we're fostering that this year and cultivating that within the school day. So just something I would love to hear more about after school starts. What was the other thing I want to? Oh, yes, strategic planning. I know it's really hard to get ahead of the game with all these things that have been happening that are out of our control. But I do want us to really think about that and get a plan in place. Thank you. I sound like a broken record, I'm sure.
I'm ahead of it.
And that's it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I was tickled to death to get over there to the new teacher orientation the other day at the community center. What really made my heart feel glad, two of my former students in Chilhowie are now Washington County employees, one teaching the elementary school at Meadowview Elementary and the other one at E.B. Stanley. And matter of fact, I got to sit at the table with one and was close enough to make eye contact with the other one. So that was really a good deal. Mr. Music, I mentioned to you tonight, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I'm proud of our quarterback from last year, Q Brooks. Yeah, he was named to Bristol for Southwest Virginia for an Upper East Tennessee Offensive Player of the Year. So he's greatly proud. He's going to Virginia Highlands, and he's talking about going to Emory Henry. So Stingers up, baby. That's good. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, I just want to mention too that what I said there a while ago about our employees, administrators. I'm sure that they'll be emphasizing to be respectful, preach to you to be respectful. And we had a large audience here, and hopefully they might still went home and watch it on TV. And we got a large audience out there people, parents watching, also they encourage the parents to tell their students to be respectful of the other students if they are wearing a mask or if they're not wearing a mask, whichever it might be. And so the parents can help a lot too. So it would be good if they would do that. Greendale High School, I'll just mention this, the ones that went to Greendale High School, they're having a reunion Friday. And they got over at the both rooms. You got the Emory and Henry rooms over at the Shoney's, yeah, and here in Abingdon. So anybody that listening and went to Greendale High School, you go get you something to eat and pay for your own there. But it's good. I'm just glad to be here, and what the new teachers and orientation is great. A lot of enthusiasm there by them. So we're looking forward to a good year.
Dr. Brown.
It was great to see students out again. You know, it's always great, whether it's academic, extracurricular, athletic, whatever the situation might be. It's always good to do that. And somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. Did you all do John Battle's boys tennis when I was out for pancreatitis or something?
On the agenda for next time that you
Okay,
vote
we'll look at
second.
that. Okay, they obviously couldn't be here then. Good, I'm just trying to make sure we get them all in, because I know we had those three.
And include the horticulture.
And the horticulture, floriculture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the next
John
meeting.
Battle.
It's on your
Okay.
agenda.
I saw that, I just overlooked it. Yeah. That's a Yogi Berra statement, I saw it.
Overlooked it, yeah.
Put that in there. I know, obviously, you know, the level approach, you know, can bring some items, but if everyone was just take a close look at it and see that level 2 would require masking of unvaccinated kids, which would include any 12-year-old and under, because they haven't even had the chance to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So should we get to that point, you know, there would be an opportunity for that to take place, you know, in level 2. We certainly hope that the transmission regresses, goes the opposite way, does not continue to go up, and we just want all kids to be safe at school, and we were going to continue to put a great effort, I feel like the staff will, on the mitigation efforts, on everything that we do to provide a safe environment with mask or without mask. You know, I think that's the holdup. But it's our intent when kids never wore masks. Did we not try to implement a program of school and study and instruction to make sure every kid was safe? Yep. Flu season, cold season, I mean, you know, we've had situations before where you have illnesses and things that go around. I heard a lady speaker tonight mention other things that school people have to deal with, you know, in the physical nature and in the medical field, that some, probably all of us, and all of us with children in schools have dealt with. So the intent of this board is to make it safe at any time, any place, anywhere for every child, regardless of the situation. It's just that we're in a situation now that is very divided and very understandably divided in some cases, but at the same time, our intent is to make it safe for all children all the time. And I think by having varying levels and allowing us to be able to document and put in place whatever level needs to be effective or in effect to make our students safe, that I feel like that's what we can do, and that's what I ask the public to trust in us to do as we move forward. I think it's
That's a lot.
I too am looking forward to school starting. I hope, I'm kind of echoing something I said before, is I'm not quite sure that our parents quite have what they need in knowing what's next. And I hope we're all ready to answer those questions, in that, you know, when and what on the mask, because I think we'll get hit with this really, really hard tomorrow, which is good, because we want to get them information and we want them to feel good about coming to school. And, you know, echoing much of what Dr. Brandon says, we will do everything we can to make sure that every student is taken care of in our school. So just looking forward to next week.
I've got several comments. First, I just want to start off by saying, and I know most everyone's left here tonight, but I'm sure there's still a lot of folks watching from home. And you know, we had some hiccups along the way last meeting, but I think overall, I think the community was very respectful. to differing opinions. There was a lot of emotion here, and I understood that. And I just very much appreciate the respectfulness of both sides and both opinions and the behavior here. For most part, it was really good, and I really appreciate that. I think that just, that's all a reflection of who we are, and we all want to do business in a professional manner, and I thought things went pretty well. Do regret I didn't make it to, as you know, didn't make it to teacher orientation. I always look forward to that, and no excuse. I've just had a million things going through my mind, and was trying to get cattle up before it got hot, and I'm going down the road feeding the truck, and it just hits me, and I thought, well, I'm supposed to be at new teacher orientation this morning. So I talked to Ratliff, and I said, is new teacher orientation this morning? He said, yeah, didn't we send out some notices? And I said, yeah, you did, but there's no way I could make it. So I really hate I missed it. I always enjoy that. I talked to, as you know, I talked to Elizabeth Ewing today, and she was talking a lot about, in general, board members that were just giving up. I mean, boards that were just saying, I've had enough. I'm not dealing with it anymore. It's not worth it. And a lot of them up for re-election and not running for re-election. And so she really commended this board for hanging in and doing what needed to be done. And she said a lot of board chairs were just giving up and saying, I'm done, I'm finished, it's not worth it, I'm not doing it anymore. So I'm not ready to give up, and I don't think any of the rest of them are. So that's something else I was going to say. And I'm not saying this selfishly, and I know we all have, but I mean, these issues that we dealt with here, none of us take them lightly. I mean, I lay awake for hours at night, tossing things back and forth and trying to do the best thing that's going to benefit our kids and going to benefit our community and going to benefit Washington County. So it's tough, and I know that people really get frustrated at us when we don't make the decisions that they feel like we need to make, but they're hard. They're really hard decisions, and we struggle with it, and we try to do what's best. I think we all try to weigh it out, and as I said, it's not always popular, and it's not always what you might want, but it's what we've convinced ourselves is best at the current time for Washington County schools and our students and our community and our families. So we know that decisions we make, it doesn't only affect the school, it doesn't only affect the student, it affects families. When you change things and you go virtual and you do mask and you don't do mask and you do self-checks and you're trying to get ready to go to work and you're trying to take your kid's temperature and all those things, we know it's hard. I mean, we realize that and we appreciate that. The only other thing I would like for us to consider, at least probably the second meeting in September or the second meeting in October, to be a strategic planning meeting, and I know it's hard to look far ahead sometimes, and especially with what's taking place, but I think we just need to go ahead and say that we're going to make one of those months a priority, and we're just going to try to work that one meeting around taking care of business and just try to take that next meeting and do a strategic planning meeting. Also, I know we've talked about it and we've dealt with other things. We do need to have in-house finance committee meeting. Mr. Ball's here tonight, and we look forward to having I know I've told you that over and over, but we look forward to having a joint finance committee meeting with you guys. And
I'd like to recommend, Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you, that we try to set something up before our next, since we added modernization to the agenda for the 16th, to get with Jason and Mr. Ball and see when their schedules before our next meeting. See if it coincides sometime before we meet and have that modern. I think it would allow the finance committee maybe to bring more information and the superintendent to bring more information if we meet with them prior to that next meeting.
sounds good. That's all I have. entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion the board convenes in closed session after a 5-minute break for the purpose of discussing the following matters as authorized by section 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia. Under section 2.2 with after 5-minute break, I did say that. Under section 2.2-3711A2, request for release from compulsory school attendance due for religious exemption cases in number 7 through 11, 2021-2022 school year. Under section 2.2-3711A1, consider employment of specific individuals. Consider employment of specific individuals contingent upon a successful completion of background check. Consider transfer of specific individuals. Consider resignation of specific individuals. Consider retirement of specific individuals. And consider of specific individuals with non-teaching assignments to receive coaching and supplement only, and subject to the 1, BHSL approval, and 2, within the number of positions approved for coaching section under section 2.2-3711A1.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Brooks and a second by Mr. Henderson that we convene in closed session after a 5-minute break for consider compulsory school attendance, employment, contingent on background, transfers, resignations, retirement, and non-teaching assignments. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.